Hi, I'm Dave Letterman. You know, my friend Bob Varsha wanted me to come on here at the top of the race and say, I feel the need for speed. I feel silly about that, so I got a buddy here to dig me out. Come on in.
Why do I have to do it?
Just do it.
You sure?
Please.
I feel the need for speed.
There, I hope that works.
All right?
Memorial Day weekend marks the beginning of summer in America, a time for reflection on the price of freedom, and a time for celebrating traditions, including the American motorsports tradition of oval racing. Round 4 of the PPG Kart World Series at Nazareth Speedway saw hometown favorite Michael Andretti charge from a lap down to within inches of race leader Paul Tracy. But Andretti could not find a way by, and Tracy's win ended a 20-race winless stretch for Team Penske. 2 weeks later and 5,000 miles away in Rio de Janeiro, Bobby Rahal had the lead with Tracy close behind and a fuel gauge ticking away. When it reached 0 with just 2 laps to go, the 3-time champion slowed and Tracy swept past for his 2nd win in a row. Today, across the Mississippi River from St. Louis, in the shadow of the Gateway Arch, the fastest drivers in the world renew the great American tradition. The green flag has been thrown on the racing summer of 1997, and we're just moments away from doing the same on round 6 of the PPG Kart World Series for 1997. Welcome to the inaugural running of the Motorola 300 at the all-new Gateway International Raceway in Madison, Illinois. Let's get quickly down to the starting grid and Jan Beekes.
Well, Bob, certainly the man with the momentum coming into this race is Paul Tracy, having won the last 2 races. But in qualifying here, as he sits on the outside of row 1, he pulled over 5 Gs around the corners. The team has now changed the steering rack in this car so that he's able to turn the car. The steering is so heavy. It's going to be brutal. It's going to be physical. Paul Tracy is ready. Let's go to Marty Reed.
The other key player in that scenario at Rio, that man, Bobby Rahal. They think they're dialed in. They went 95 laps on a set of tires this morning. That's why they were very slow in the morning warm-up. They're very confident. And his partner, David Letterman, is here. And you have to remember that when Letterman has been here, Rahal has been on the podium 2 of the last 3 times. Bob.
All right, thanks, guys. Let us say hello. I'm Bob Varsha, along with former kart champion Danny Sullivan, and our thanks to David Letterman and Regis Philbin for getting our Memorial Day weekend off to a happy start. Danny, this racetrack is brand new, completely untested by the teams until they got here, but they've been working the groove in all of the practice sessions.
Well, they've been trying to get it to work up to 2 lanes so that they can pass around the outside. That's going to be very tough. They're going to have to be patient. It's going to be tough. Traffic is going to be a big factor today.
Pit lane is very long. A team can really help their drivers in the pits.
Well, that pit lane is so long it can take about 50 seconds by the time they come off to get back out there. That's 2 laps. They've got to be very quick, and the pits can lose or gain you some spots.
The place is a complete sellout, 45,000 in the grandstand and thousands more down on the infield. We'll be back to set the starting lineup and get the Motorola 300 underway. Stay with us. Back at Gateway International Raceway, where the teams are lined up on the grid and the crowd in the grandstand is on its feet in anticipation of the inaugural Motorola 300. Now let's join in saluting our country with the playing of the national anthem. We wish you a safe and reflective Memorial Day weekend, and we kick it off here at Gateway International Raceway. A huge crowd on hand at this brand new racing facility, and it is a very different kind of racetrack, Danny.
Well, it is. Long straightaways, about 2,000 feet on each one of them. A tight corner in turn 1 and 2. As you can see, the banking 11 degrees, a little bit slower than Phoenix. And then that long back straightaway, and then into turns 3 and 4, which are 9 degree, which they think are a little quicker. The amazing part is during qualifying, they were doing 197 miles an hour in turns 9 and 3. That was their average from going into 3 and coming off of 4. But only one real good braking and passing spot that's going into 1 and 2.
Paul Tracy averaged 188 miles an hour for a complete lap in practice. That was about the quickest we saw. Tremendous speed on this racetrack and tremendous lateral G-forces, particularly in turns 3 and 4, over 5, and that is a lot of work for the drivers next. As you see, final pre-race preparations going on down on the grid. We are just moments away from the command to start engines. An enthusiastic crowd here in St. Louis, where the racing traditions run deep and wide. 236 laps of racing ahead. Now we have a high cloud cover overhead. There were reports of scattered showers expected late in the day. We hope to get this race completed. At 119 laps, we will have an official race should the raindrops come. So all of the teams up and down the pit lane will have one eye on the sky and the other on the fuel meters as they try to plan their pit stop strategy. Now let's get the command from Mr. Bob Growney, President and CEO of Motorola.
Gentlemen, start your engines.
This is when the nerves are really peaking right now. This is when they're really, all the adrenaline's flowing right now. And this is, once they get rolling a little bit, then it tends to settle down. But right at this moment.
The final minutes before battle. There is Greg Moore, the Canadian, very quick in the morning warm-up. He could well be a factor in today's race. Right now, let's take a look at the starting lineup for the inaugural Motorola 300. On the pole for the third time in his career, but the first since the Milwaukee Oval in 1994, Raul Boesel of Brazil, starting alongside Paul Tracy, winner of the last 2 races. He is also the championship leader coming into the weekend. Row 2 will be Mauricio Gugelmin. The Rio pole sitter has had a second-place finish this year at Long Beach. He'll be alongside the man I just mentioned, Greg Moore. 2 times this year, he's been second, including our last race on the Oval at Rio de Janeiro. Row 3, Patrick Carpentier. In his 6th start in the series, 220 fewer than the man he starts next to, Al Unser Jr. After a slow start to junior season, he has 3 top 10 finishes. Row 4 will be Parker Johnstone, looking for consistency. He's only had 2 top 10s this year. Next to Dario Franchitti, tied with Carpentier in the Rookie of the Year standings. Row 5 will be Jimmy Vasser, the defending series champion, whose last win came 1 year ago this weekend in the US 500. Next to him, teammate Alex Zanardi. His only win this year came on the streets of Long Beach, California. Row 6 will be Michael Andretti, making his 200th start in a PPG Kart World Series IndyCar, next to Bobby Rahal, who ran out of fuel while leading at Rio with just over 2 miles to go. A great story. Row 7, Richie Hearn, the fastest of the Lola qualified chassis. He'll be next to Brian Herta, who has 4 top 10 finishes in 5 starts this year. Row 8, Gilles de Ferran, the Long Beach pole winner, will have his work cut out for him, starting 15th. He'll be next to countryman Roberto Moreno, who qualified on the front row at Rio and ran a strong second until tangling with another car. Row 9 will be Scott Pruitt, teammate to the pole sitter. Scott won earlier this year on the streets of Surfers Paradise, Australia. Next to him, Adrian Fernandez, who's in his backup car after a fire in the morning warm-up. Row 10 will be Andre Ribeiro. All 3 of his career wins have come on ovals. Next to him, Mark Blundell, whose sponsor, Motorola, is also the sponsor of the race. Row 11, Walter Salas, the 3rd of the full-time rookies in the series, next to Max Pappas of Italy, another driver who moved to a backup after problems in the warm-up. Row 12, Juan Fangio II, still looking to finish his first race since the season opener. He'll be next to Michel Jourdain Jr., the youngest driver in the field. On row 13, P.J. Jones, still looking to get a good performance out of the Toyota engine. And Hiro Matsushita, who had no time in qualifying, makes his 102nd career series start today. Now here are the stories we'll be following as the race just begins to unfold. Where's the groove? Brand new racetrack. We've had guys down low, guys up high in the morning warm-up trying to clean off the racetrack and see where they can pass. Traffic will be the story of the day for those who cannot pass. Pit strategy will be critical. We expect 4 pit stops, the first coming perhaps between laps 44 and 47, depending on yellow flags. And let's get physical. A very tough racetrack on the drivers, particularly their necks and shoulders. And then there is the question of weather. As I mentioned, the forecast calls for scattered rain. See how far we get. Hopefully, we will go 236 laps. A look at the championship standings coming in. Paul Tracy with 2 straight victories. After 5 rounds, he leads by 4 points over Scott Pruitt. Alex Zanardi in 3rd, followed by Michael Andretti, Greg Moore, and Jimmy Vasser. Good view from high over the head of the packed house here at Gateway as we get set to go racing. Down to Marty Reed.
Weather could be a factor. We've talked about it, but so far, Bob, things are looking good. In fact, give you an idea, there's a plane pulling one of those banners way up there. He's about 1,500 feet, and the cloud cover is extremely high. And the big key will be if those clouds start to come lower, that's when it spells trouble for us. Jan?
Well, Marty, you talk about those clouds, you talk about the temperature. Obviously, those clouds make it cooler on the racetrack, and therefore the air going into the engines possibly could give you better fuel economy. So it's going to be a 4-stop race. If we have a lot of green, maybe these clouds could make it a 3-stop run.
All right, thank you, guys. There you see the cars warming tires and engines. 2 laps to our green flag. You're on board with Bobby Rahal. What a story this team was in Rio. 70 races since the 3-time series champion last won a race. Looked like he had Rio in the bag, but they gambled on fuel and lost. And there's Michael Andretti, who got to a terrific start this year, but he has not run well in recent races. Dropped out at Long Beach. Big problems in Rio. He needs some points. Now you ride with Gilles de Ferran, racing the engine a little bit there, Danny.
Well, he's just accelerating forward, heating up those back tires, touching the brakes, probably getting them warmed up as well because of the dive into the first corner.
You are down in turns 3 and 4. Driving the pace car today, Walter Payton, NFL grade Hall of Famer and co-owner of Payton Coyne Racing. You can bet he feels the need for speed here today. There's our Dodge Ram pickup pace car today. Raul Boesel on pole, Paul Tracy next to him. This could be an interesting first turn. The crowd on its feet saluting the drivers as the field makes its way around. And they will form up 2 by 2 very early on this lap before taking the green. Now, if you were with us for the Rio 400, you know that we had an incident just before the green flag. There's been a lot of talk about that. A lot of the drivers embarrassed. Questions about their professionalism. They've talked it out among them. And they are looking for a clean start here today at Gateway International Raceway. Half a lap to go. The field is in 3 and 4, coming up to speed. Boesel and Tracy on the front row. The crowd is on its feet and cheering. The field is off turn 4, headed for the green flag, and we're underway. The particles you see in the air are dust off the wheels of Raul Boesel, who was down low. Lime was used to help cure this racetrack, and there are deposits of it around the track that get kicked up by the wheels of the cars. Down the backstretch up to 185, 190 miles an hour, accelerating all the way through 3 and 4. Boesel opening an early lead. Alex Zanardi underneath Dario Franchitti, Patrick Carpentier's car for Tony Bettenhausen.
He's made a couple of moves in these early laps.
Here comes Franchitti. No, he can't do it going into 3, and this is the kind of thing that the drivers were worried about. Is there enough room in the groove for 2 cars to go side by side?
Well, of course, we saw Zanardi go right there with got Carpentier up high. That's why Carpentier's moved back. There's Parker Johnstone going under. I think traffic's affecting how they come off the corner. Gives that guy behind him a run on him.
Boesel up front, followed by Tracy, Moore, Unser Jr., Gugelman, Zanardi, Johnstone, Franchitti. On the leader, Boisel.
I think what we're going to see a lot right in the early stages, everybody feeling that out, trying to figure out what they can do when they get held up, how they have to pass, where they can pass, how much ground they lose when they get held up by a slower car.
Boisel drawing away from Tracy, who in turn has a big lead over Greg Moore, the blue car, in third. Right behind Moore is Al Unser Jr. Alex Zanardi has gone from 10th at the start up to 6th, and Max Pappas pulls into the pit lane. Could there be more engine problems for the Arciero Wells team? They lost an engine in the warm-up this morning.
They actually lost two. They had one go in their spare car on the last lap, and they had to change a motor to get him back out there. So
the learning curve remains steep for Toyota in the PPG Kart World Series. There is Greg Moore running third. Behind him, Al Unser Jr. in fourth.
Greg Moore, we've watched him all week long. He can run up there high. He's the one pushing the groove up. Seems to run up very close to that wall, and we asked him about it yesterday. He doesn't think he's that close.
And we could have sworn he actually touched it. You couldn't have gotten a piece of paper between Greg Moore and that wall coming off of 2. There's Mauricio Gugelmin with Alex Zanardi and Patrick Carpentier just behind him. A train down the backstretch. Gugelmin on the left, Zanardi on the right. Working lap number 8. See the running order with intervals behind the car ahead, behind the leader that is, the upper left of your screen. 236 lap schedule of this 1.27 mile oval.
And of course, if it stays green like this for a period of time, expect the pit stops about lap 44, someplace in that window, 44 to 47, maybe even all the way to 50, depending on what kind of mileage they're getting. There goes Jimmy Vasser going down the inside of Parker Johnstone.
Vasser moves up into the 8th spot. Johnstone drops down to 9th.
Looks like the Chip Ganassi cars are both working very well. We've seen the most moves, it appears, by those two guys.
Down in turn 1, Roberto Moreno in the Newman Haas Budweiser sponsored car is up high on the racetrack. Mechanical problems, could not pull down low, might have been dicing with other cars at the time. The engine appears to be silent.
Doesn't appear to be any damage on that car. I'd imagine just in a safety issue, he pulled up there because he couldn't get down to the inside of the track in a safe manner and keep away from the other cars, so he just stayed up there.
The yellow flag is out. The safety car will be on the track to get the field under control. While we have a moment, we'll take a quick timeout and return for more live from Gateway International Raceway. This is the Motorola 300. Welcome back to Gateway International Raceway. We are under caution here with 11 laps complete at the inaugural Motorola 300. Tonight on ABC, Dolly Parton and James Woods star in the romantic comedy Straight Talk on Saturday night of the movies, followed by an all-new episode of Guns starring Carrie Fisher and Kirsten Dunst, all tonight starting at 8 o'clock Eastern, 7 Central on ABC. Down to Jan Bikus.
Al Unser Jr. has come into the pits because on the rear wing, there was a piece coming off the rear wing. Now, on an oval, you are not allowed to run what's known as a wicker bill. So therefore, if the wing is built with one, you have to put in a spacer to take that away. Well, that particular spacer was starting to come off of the car, so they brought him in, they ripped it off the car. He is now back out on the racetrack, but it did cost him, obviously, track position.
The word on Roberto Moreno is that this gearbox, he has got 5th gear, but he can't get it to go forward. And it may also be a combination of problems as the oil pressure as well. So they're trying to diagnose this thing, see if they can get him back in, get him back out on the track.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. Raul Boisel remains the race leader. Paul Tracy just behind him. As we remain under caution, Jan Bikus.
Well, to further update you on the other Penske runner, of course, Paul Tracy, he feels that he ran over some debris. He says, the crew, can you please check the car? I think I ran over a helmet pad coming out of someone else's car.
Paul Tracy comes back up to speed in 2nd place, but from behind, Alex Zanardi goes underneath Mauricio Gugelmin for 4th place. The order is Boiselle, Tracy, Moore, Zanardi, Gugelmin, Carpentier, Vassar, Johnstone, Franchitti, and Al Unser Jr. rounds out the top 10 after the pit stop.
He and Jimmy Vassar's cars seem to be working very well off of 4 because they're both making passes down into turn 1.
Onto the back stretch, off of turn 2. Up to about 190 miles an hour and no lifting down into 3 and 4. You ride with Alex Zanardi. Now watch as he goes down into 1. Zanardi was going down a gear in practice. There he is.
Of course, what that does is that when the RPMs go down to 1, it gives him a good pull off of 2 down that back straightaway. Carry a little bit more speed down in there.
Heard him grab 6th. No break in the RPM at all.
Well, it's a lot easier to do that because with the sequential gearboxes and the electronics, they can just shift and they never take their foot off of the throttle. They just hold it all the way on the floor, and the electronics help the turbo slow down and shift the car.
Let's go back to the next car in line now. His teammate, Jimmy Vassar.
See that big jolt right there? That's that one bump right there in turn 4. Gives him a jolt, but nobody seems to be real upset about it.
Now we'll look from high overhead at the 2 Target Team Ganassi teammates. Zanardi is 3rd and Vassar 6th in the championship coming into this weekend. And thus far, if we were worried about the racing groove, Danny, it appears to be wide enough for 2 cars. We're getting some good side-by-side racing.
Well, we are, but we haven't seen really the leaders yet on slower cars or the back mark when they're going to have to go up there and go around them on the outside. Most of the passes that we've seen are going into turn 1 under braking.
Mauricio Gugelmin, Patrick Carpentier, and Dario Franchitti running 4th, 5th, and 6th. And there's an extra battle going on between Carpentier and Franchitti. They are tied for the lead in the Jim Truman Rookie of the Year standings with 5 championship points apiece. Down to the pit lane of Marty Reed.
Well, a couple of things to update you on. First, talk to Pat Patrick. He loves the race pace that Raul Boiselle is running right now. And as far as Michael Andretti, he hasn't made any move forward, but we were listening in, and he says, looks like Rahal's really loose, so keep an eye out for that battle to brew up as well. Also, it is a combination of problems on Moreno. It was a gearbox, as well as he just lost oil pressure at the same time he lost high gear.
They're also starting to get into some slower cars right now. Saw Greg Moore take a move around the outside. Look at that. There's
Carpentier
taking a look at Big Mo. And of course, Franchitti's hoping that they do something so he can take advantage of them. They slow down and he can make a run.
Carpentier got out of the tow, took a look underneath, and then slowed dramatically.
That's a tough end to try to pass. They're so fast down there. And look how much Dario is closed up on him. The 3rd car right there, the black and silver car, Hogan on the side.
Call it the home team if you like. Carl Hogan, the car owner, is based here. He's Trucking Empire based in St. Louis.
This is going to be tricky. Now there's a back marker right there at the left of your screen. Looks like it's Hero. Very carefully around the outside of him. That helps because eventually it just keeps moving the groove up. Next time he does it, he'll be a little quicker around it.
Cars laying down rubber for these tires all weekend long, adding to the traction. Here's Al Unser Jr. trying to move up on Parker Johnstone. Unser Jr. is 8th, and Johnstone presently shown in 17th place. So he has dropped a lot of ground. Once again, Unser Jr. in Johnstone's draft. Correction now, Parker Johnstone shown in 8th place. And Al Unser Jr. in 9th as we come around to complete lap 24 of 236.
Well, they know they're battling for a spot, whatever it is, and Al Jr. is having a go, and Parker doesn't want to give up that spot.
They had a terrific battle a couple of races ago on the streets of Long Beach, California. Jan Bikus has more on Al Jr.
Yes, we told you that they came into the pits and pulled out a filler piece on the rear wing, which effectively gave him a little bit of a wicker at the back of the car. They have shown the CART officials their spare wing, and CART says that that is within the rules. So there's not going to be a problem at the end of the race, and I think he's dropping distance now to Greg Moore.
He is, in fact. Greg Moore is going under Al Unser Jr. for the spot.
I hate to correct you, but that's Paul Tracy.
Excuse me.
That is Paul Tracy for second spot. We were just on that other battle, and we switched over to that. Greg Moore is really flying right now.
So there's something strange going on with the scoring. I've been watching our scoring monitors. If Jimmy Vasser is going up and down the monitor, there may be something wrong with the way his car is being electronically scored. He is leaping up and down the top 10 in the most erratic way. But there is Paul Tracy with that unusual blue, red, and chromed helmet. Good close look at Greg Moore. 5th in the championship coming into the weekend with a couple of second-place finishes. Still looking for his first victory in the series. You can be sure it's not going to be too long before he gets it.
Look at that. He is closing on the leader, who's in that bright yellow and orange colored car, Brahma car. And there's Greg Moore in the blue and white car right behind him.
Slower traffic ahead. Walter Salas just ahead of Raul Boesel as they begin to lap slower traffic. Boesel's an interesting story. Here's a guy, world sports car champion, Formula One experience. Greg Moore coming up around the outside. Slower traffic ahead. Nope. But Boesel, to finish my story, has shown on the short ovals here in North America running the PPG Kart World Series. 2 poles on the oval at Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where we'll be next week. Jan Bikus.
Well, talking about Greg Moore, we checked with the team and they said that we're not speeding up. We think everyone else is dropping into our clutches. Right now, they're happy with their pace as there's a yellow on the course.
The note of the engines comes down as the yellow flag comes on and the lights flash all the way around the circuit to warn the drivers.
I'll tell you what, Raul was thankful for that yellow because he had Greg Moore all over him.
There is the reported reason. Mark Blundell in the Motorola Pac West Reynard is going slowly, but surprisingly he doesn't take the pit interest. We'll take this opportunity for a timeout. Yellow flag, our second of the day. The pits are now closed, so the cars will stay on the track. That explains why Blundell didn't go for it. I couldn't see the sign from this distance. They will then be open for the lead lap cars. When the lead lap cars are clear, then the lapped cars will be allowed to come down. And the teams will get their first opportunity to help their drivers move up the line under caution.
What happens now is a lot of guys are starting to have problems. They realize their car, let's say, has gone loose. They might decide to change because they're losing too much ground. They'll come in and adjust the car, maybe a wing adjustment or change something on the tires, put a little bit more pressure, take a little bit out to give them a little bit more grip.
The running order under caution is Boesel, Moore, Tracy, Zanardi. Just behind Zanardi, you see his teammate Jimmy Vasser running in the 5th spot, followed by Mauricio Gugelmin, Patrick Carpentier, Dario Franchitti, Parker Johnstone, and Al Unser Jr. While we have the field slowed down, we'll take a break. We'll be back for more of the Motorola 300 after this message and a word from our ABC stations. Live, the Motorola 300. Let's get down to Jan Bikus in the pits.
Well, just after we went to commercial, many people took the opportunity to come here onto pit road, including Greg Moore. You saw how fast he was running. The crew made no changes on that car, but unfortunately, it came up off the air jacks. They had a problem with the right front. It came down, back up again. It was a slow stop for him, and he lost track position. Let's go up the other end to Marty Reed.
One of those cars that stayed out on the track was race leader Raul Boesel. Scott Pruitt, his teammate, pit. That is a strategy that they want to run here on the Brahma team because that now covers their bases. It's called the split team strategy. They're looking for a number of laps for a splash at the end. And in fact, if we get about 36 laps of yellow total, you might see some of these teams try and gamble for a 3-stop race instead of 4. So that's the strategy right now. Boiselle stays out because that covers both bases.
There are a lot of very short fingernails up and down the pit lane as these guys work on those fuel calculations. There's Raul Boiselle, who, as mentioned, did not pit. Coming around to complete lap 35, and we anticipate the green flag when we do. Boiselle, Tracy, the third car in line.
Green flag, green flag.
The spotters on the radios telling their drivers it is green. Hammer down. We have spotters high overhead, only on the ovals of PPG Cup competition. Working the traffic, Boiselle, Tracy, Carpentier, Franchitti, Zanardi, the top 5.
Well, that's when you hold your breath up there, when you got to go around the outside and you're not sure about that groove. Looks slippery up there. It probably is a little slippery.
There's Raul Boiselle. Looking incredibly strong here in the early laps of this race. Just driving away from Paul Tracy.
Don't forget, he's fairly light on fuel. Greg Moore's back there with a new set of tires, full load of fuel. He'll be a factor at some stage again.
A bit further back. Dario Franchitti on the left in 4th place. Patrick Carpentier on the left in 2 almost identical looking cars. Dario Franchitti, the 2nd car in line, as Carpentier ducks to the inside to go around traffic.
And of course, this is a pretty fierce battle because these are 2 rookies. They've got another little championship or a side bet going right now.
Franchitti ducks out from behind one of Dan Gurney's All-American Racers machines, still working with the Toyota engine, still needing horsepower. Now the 2 Ganassi teammates, Zanardi and Vassar. And once again, the yellow flag flies from the flag stand, and there is the reason. That is Juan Fangio, the 2nd. That could not all be lime dust. He apparently has lost another engine. He is on the start-finish straightaway, just across the wall from the pits, right in front of a massive grandstand with 45,000 fans, and look at the smoke from that engine. I don't see any visible sign of oil down on the track. The kart safety team is right there. We'll have a quick look around the car, make sure nothing's burning.
The pace car slash truck is coming down there on the inside. Trying to get by, trying to get around there to get in the front of those cars.
Safety truck being driven by Gail Truis, the PPG pace car team. Once again, the sign is up, the pits are closed. We'll see if Raul Boiselle comes in this time around. 40 laps complete, working 41 of 236. The top 4 cars in the line have not pitted: Boiselle, Tracy, Carpentier, and Franchitti. Most of the rest of the field has pitted at least once. Al Unser Jr. has pitted twice. On the right is Fangio's stricken car.
And the last safety truck you saw there in line, he's looking for oil on the track just to make sure it's clean. There's no oil in the racing line.
Jan Beekes down in the pit lane has more on Al Unser Jr.'s situation.
Yes, we do. When Al Unser Jr. came in to make his pit stop, they made a tire change. They qualified on the softer Goodyears. Now they have put the harder Goodyears on the outside of Al Unser Jr.'s car. The idea being that the tires are just a little bit slower, but they're much better on a longer run. So obviously they're hoping there are longer runs. This yellow doesn't really play into their strategy.
But what we're also seeing here, which is very typical of Roger Penske, They're doing a little bit of experimenting in the early stages of the race to figure out what they want to do at the end of the race when they're going to be hopefully still on the lead lap, and then they'll make their call.
Now from high overhead, you see the pace truck leading the field around, and the cars on the in-road to the pits have to be very careful that they maintain that same pace. You cannot go quicker than the cars behind the pace truck. Marty Reed is down in the pits.
Yeah, we're waiting for Raul Boesel. Now, they are going to make a change also in tires. They feel like they need a little bit more compound. They're going to go from the option to the primary, and that will probably be the only change because they are extremely happy with the car. Obviously, we really didn't get a real long run on any of these tires. What's coming off looks very fine, but wow, they got that fuel in. He is back out on track.
And it is critical that you get the car stopped and started again as quickly as possible as Patrick Carpentier and his rookie rival Dario Franchitti come out together.
There's a little bit of rookie enthusiasm.
Gee. There isn't enough room for two cars in the acceleration lane. They are back out now, and Carpentier comes out where he went in ahead of his rookie rival Franchitti. You ride with Michael Andretti. Boy, that got a rise out of this packed house. And on the nose of Bobby Rahal's machine, here's Alex Zanardi. We'll be back in a moment. We are back live at Gateway International Raceway in Madison, Illinois, in the Motorola 300. Tomorrow, live here on ABC Sports, the 81st Indianapolis 500. Former winner Arie Luyendyk is on the pole. You've been hearing about it throughout the month of May. Watch it tomorrow. Final event for the Indy Racing League. 11 a.m. Eastern Time, the Indy 500 right here on ABC Sports. We are about one lap from green here at Gateway International Raceway. Let's get down to Jan Bikus.
Well, Al Unser Jr. has had some bad news. Roger Penske talking to some of the kart officials. The last time he left the pits, he did not blend properly. In other words, he did not take the spot that he should have on the racetrack. They have now put him at the back of the field.
There you see him. Just behind Michel Jourdain and Hiro Matsushita. The car's coming up to speed now. We anticipate a green flag. How will Al Unser Jr. handle it? We'll see in a moment. His teammate Paul Tracy is in the lead as we go green on lap number 47. The order is Tracy, Alex Zanardi, Jimmy Vasser, Greg Moore, Mauricio Gugelmin, Parker Johnstone, Scott Pruitt, Bobby Rahal, Brian Herta, Michael Andretti, Gilles de Ferran, Andre Ribeiro, Adrian Fernandez, Walter Salas, Raul Boesel, who started the race from pole, now back in 15th, followed by Patrick Carpentier, Dario Franchitti, and Al Unser Jr. We go on board with Bobby Rahal, running 8th. Feathering the throttle slightly. Bringing the tires up to temperature before he tries that turn flat. 71 races since the three-time series champion has won. Flashing down the backstretch.
Of course, that car you see right there behind Paul Tracy is Richie Hearn, who's a lap down in 19th spot. But he doesn't look like he's losing any ground to Paul, so he's obviously hooked up and working well. Probably got out of step in those pit stops.
John Della Penna, the car owner and chief engineer on that car. They are usually very quick, the quickest of the Lola runners. And their problems here today. This is Jimmy Vasser. Raul Boesel has led the bulk of the laps, 41 to 8 for Paul Tracy. Vasser with Greg Moore just behind him. We've said it before, things happen quickly on a short track.
See how Greg can get up there in that higher lane, just a little bit higher. Looks like he's carrying a little bit more speed. Oh, he's going to have a look, but Jimmy said, no thank you. I'm not giving up that spot.
Speaking of looks, there's a great one.
See how he's just at about a half a car higher on there. He's trying to move that groove up a little bit, and obviously his car works well. See how he's out there a little higher? Just that little bit higher.
Vassar able to pull a car length or two on Moore on the straightaway. Jan Bikus has more.
Yes, down in the pit lane, there is some discussion in the team target crew here that Jimmy Vassar may have a tire going down. Now, I asked the crew, do they have the tire pressure indicators or the telemetry that some of the other teams do? They say no. So they have to rely on Jimmy Vassar's seat-of-the-pants feel. They're not sure if he's losing air pressure, but they're ready for a pit stop just in case.
Vassar looked under Hiro Matsushita, thought better of it.
That sometimes is so tough because you're going so quick.
Now Moore may get a run on Vassar as the two of them pull out from behind Matsushita. Vassar in red, Moore in blue.
If Jimmy's got a tire going down, he's certainly not slowing up for it. And that's a tough decision because you're trying to think about it. The last thing you need is for it to go down rapidly because that'll cause a big incident.
Here are the gaps over the last 3 laps between these two. Constantly coming down. This is the backstretch. 1,976 feet long before you dive into 3.
And remember, these guys pitted, I believe, at the same time. They'll have a similar fuel load and the same number of laps on the tires.
This is turns 1 and 2. You can tell by the way Vassar comes out of the throttle. 4 cars officially out of the race at this point. The leader is Paul Tracy in our race summary in the upper left. Averaging under the green flag nearly 179 miles an hour. Here's the running order with the gaps behind the leader. Moore once again right up on Vassar's rear wing. See Vassar's progress through the race thus far. Around to complete lap number 57 next time by. Able to close off of 4.
Trying to get a tow from him, trying to get a little draft down that straightaway. It's about 2,000 feet of straightaway. Trying to get the car in front of him to make a hole in the air and pull him down there a little bit. And then slingshot out and try to dive underneath him for braking.
You see the last lap speeds through different segments of the racetrack.
Look at this. He's closing on. He's going to go. That's right off of 4.
And this time Greg Moore can do it and takes 3rd place away from Jimmy Vassar. You saw the rear wing, those little vortexes as the moisture is squeezed out of the air over the wing, which tells me at least that Moore is carrying perhaps a little more wing than Vassar, which is why he was having trouble getting him on the straightaways.
Well, he certainly got through 3 and 4 so fast that time. He pulled out right when he came off of 4, so he had a tremendous run on him.
Word from Vassar's pit is he has said no more about the possibility of the tire going down. Now here's Parker Johnstone in 6th place. Scott Pruitt just behind him in 7th. There's Bobby Rahal trying to haul himself up and get a piece of this fight. Scott Pruitt 2nd in the championship by 4 points to Paul Tracy coming into this weekend. Scott Pruitt. There is your leader, Paul Tracy, with a gap of about 3.8 seconds over the 2nd place car of Alex Zanardi. This is the 5th race that Paul Tracy has led this year. Going into today's race, he had led over 40% of the total laps run thus far. We'll be back with more from Gateway Live in just a moment.
This Ford Fact is brought to you by Ford and your Ford dealers. Have you driven a Ford lately?
Whether it's an Indy car or a high-performance street car, you want to be certain the car does not lean or roll too much in the corners. Now, in the past, that's always been controlled by what we call an...
Back live at Gateway International Raceway, we have a couple of twists to our story. There is Greg Moore, who is the new race leader, but that was 2 leaders ago. That's how quickly things are happening here. Moments after we went to commercial, Paul Tracy came into the pit lane. He was slowing noticeably on the track, and he came down. And then that put Alex Zanardi in the lead before Greg Moore came calling off of turn 4, Danny.
Yes, I think he sized him up for 1 or 2 laps, and then he just really laid back going into 3 and stood on it, got a run on him, and right coming off of 4, just like he did to Jimmy Vasser. He pulled out and passed.
For the first time since the Michigan 500 10 races ago, Greg Moore and Forsyth Racing are in the lead as he looks underneath Richie Hearn. Let's get down to Jan Bikus now and find out what happened to Paul Tracy.
Yes, Paul Tracy came in. You said he slowed a little bit on the racetrack. That was just so that he could get positioned to get into pit lane. He said the car was getting loose, so they decided to come in at the early part of the window. They made an 11.7 second stop. They took some front wing out of it, so Paul should be happier by now.
Well, he may well be happier, but he dropped from the race lead down to 19th place with that green flag stop.
Yeah, he went a couple of laps where he was slow, and that car must have gotten really loose. And I would imagine what they told him was stay out 2 more laps or something so we can get inside of a window for the fuel, and then you can stop.
In fact, the man who was hounding Paul Tracy during that lap before he pitted was the man right there in the red and white car with the yellow helmet, Richie Hearn. Moore looks under and thinks better of it.
Yeah, Richie's pretty racy, and he's a ways back, but he certainly has a quick car.
All of the top cars have pitted once, except Al Unser Jr. back in 15th, who was pitted twice after that problem with loose part on the wing. Roberto Moreno is one of the cars out of the race, and Marty Reed is with him.
Yeah, you never like to talk to guys before the checkered flag falls. Roberto, we had several reports, but it turned out to be you lost all the oil pressure.
Not really. The engine, it was okay. We got the gearbox seizing up, and it eventually blew up. It was unfortunate short race for the Kmart Budweiser team, but we'll be back strong again next weekend in Milwaukee.
Let's talk a little bit about the G loading, the number of laps that you were out there. How we've been speculating how physical this event will be. How physical is it out there?
Basically, it's all lateral Gs. You get up to 5 Gs lateral, but we are all protected for it, and it doesn't bother us too much once you get used to it. It just feels like a weekend drive.
We've got a caution on the track, guys.
We do indeed. Something strange is happening here. Brian Herta pulled to a stop, leapt from his car, and just ahead of him, Raul Boesel is also rolling to a stop.
Well, I would imagine if Brian jumped out of that car, he had some hot fluids or maybe even a fire, but some more than likely hot water rolling down there around his rear end, and he wanted to get out of it.
You can see the steam coming out of the cockpit as Brian Herta trots back to the pits. I wasn't looking up the racetrack. I'm not sure if that is related to Raul Boesel's problem. We're going to take a deep breath and find out what's going on as Herta heads back to the pits to tell the team what happened. Up front, Greg Moore remains the leader. There is Herta's car with those fluids coming out the bottom. We'll take a break after this message and a word from our ABC stations. Live at Gateway International Raceway in the Motorola 300, our aerial shots are being provided by the Bud One Airship, which reminds you, fresh beer tastes better. Against that cool gray sky, we have an interesting story developing here at the Motorola 300. There you see Brian Herta's stricken car being towed off after he had what appeared to be a hot water leak in the cockpit. At the same time, Raul Boesel, who started from pole and led the first 41 laps of this race, also came to a stop. Let's get down to Jan Bikus, who's with Brian Herta.
Well, let's find out about Brian Herta. You jumped out of there in a hurry. What happened?
Well, the car was on fire. I was getting a lot of... It wasn't the engine. It was something in the front of the car, electronics or something. It was burning plastic. I was getting some fumes in there. So I just wanted to get out and get some clean air. And then I ran down here because, you know, we've got telemetry in the cars. I was hoping they saw something. Maybe we could make a quick change and get out. We maybe would have only lost a lap or two. I got down here. They said it's done for the day. So it's disappointing because you know, Shell is a big sponsor of the race here. We wanted to do a good job for them. But, you know, we'll go back to Milwaukee next week.
Okay, thank you, Brian. And by the way, guys, he ran it for 4 laps that way. Marty?
Yes, and Raul Boesel, they have refired the motor, and it looked like, I just caught a glimpse, they had bodies all over everything. Looked like they changed the spark box. He is refired, and it looks like he is going to be out and back into this race. For a moment there, this team thought that he was done for the day.
Wow, what a dramatic twist. See if they can get him back out. There's Raul Boesel. Pat Patrick is his car owner. You heard Brian Herta mention they'll try to go get him next week. Next week, of course, is the Miller 200. Sunday, June 1st at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, Michael Andretti, the defending champion, where he picked up his record-breaking 32nd career win, breaking a tie with Al Unser Jr. for second on the active list among drivers. Miller 200, Sunday, June 1st at 2 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPN. Now, during the flurry of pit stops under this caution, there was a very, very scary moment in Jimmy Vasser's pit. Let's go back and take a look at what happened. Vasser is the car on the right. Watch as his crewman pulls away the air hose that puts the car up on the jacks and then tumbles to the ground.
Well, that was actually a fuel hose there, and it looked like it hung for a second, and he couldn't get it out, and the car started rolling, and he kept trying to stretch away from it, and got caught with that left rear, but it looked like they jumped up.
We should point out, when you see those sorts of things happening, the driver is looking ahead at the man who signals him to go out of the pits, and when the car comes off the jacks, that's his signal to go.
And he's told, go, 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 usually, and they've got the medical staff down there working on him.
Kart safety team is there, as they are for the drivers on the racetrack. Our safety car is now off. The green flag waves. We are on lap 81, and we are back underway. The leader, Dario Franchitti, just went out the bottom of your screen. There is Jimmy Vasser. He runs second, followed by Greg Moore in third. Then Alex Zanardi, Mo Gugelmin, Scott Pruitt, Bobby Rahal, Parker Johnstone, Gilles de Ferran, and Al Unser Jr. And Rahal picked up that spot on Johnstone with a quicker pit stop.
And I tell you, Dario, who's a rookie, certainly made the most of that restart. He checked out and he's gone. He's got a big lead.
Scott Pruitt goes around Mauricio Gugelmin, put Pruitt up into the fifth spot and dropped Gugelmin to sixth. Parker Johnstone around Bobby Rahal to take back the place he lost to the pit. That's Gilles de Ferran up ahead. He's had a quiet race thus far.
Good move there by Patrick Carpentier, and the blue and white Alumax car went right under Al Unser Jr. diving in there to turn 3.
That puts Carpentier up into 10th, but here comes Unser Jr. Nope.
Let me tell you, these rookies, Carpentier and Franchitti, are having a great afternoon.
Franchitti leads the race. Carpentier runs back in the number 10 spot. Bud 1 airship. There's a great look at just how fast these cars go through 3 and 4.
In qualifying, 197-mile-an-hour average through there. Now for Franchitti, this has got to be a special moment because his team owner, Carl Hogan, actually lives and has based his operation here in St. Louis.
First career lead for Dario Franchitti, and there you see him out in front. That leaves only 7 drivers in today's race who have never led a lap in competition. Wearing the Cross of St. George on his helmet, the white cross on the blue field with the flag of Italy below it. He comes from mixed Scotch-Italian parentage. And this team was late getting their act together, getting to Homestead for the first race of the season. They've done a lot of learning, getting used to the way everybody operates. He had a rough race on his first oval, first race in the PPG Kart World Series, crashing out at Homestead. Now he's running well. There's Gilles de Ferran on the right and Patrick Carpentier on the left. 9th and 10th. Battle for 9th. There you see the intervals coming down, but from lap 83 to lap 85. Bobby Rahal at the bottom of the picture. Seems to be a lot of paper debris out there on the racetrack. Now, Paul Tracy made that unscheduled pit stop that started all of this off. He had covered 79 laps on one load of fuel. Now, that includes yellow flag laps, but it's still a long, 79 miles, including yellow flag laps. So he got a lot of mileage out of that car, and he may be able to go the rest of the way on 2 stops. We'll have to wait and see. Jan Bikus.
Yes, Bob, you mentioned a moment ago about paper on the racetrack. The wind is blowing from the grandstands out towards the racetrack itself, and many of the drivers on the radios have been talking to their crews, concerned about that paper getting into the radiators. So as we go later in the race, you may see some of the crews diving to the radiator openings to make sure that they're open.
Flashing by the Sweet Tower Gilles de Ferran started 15th, about 13 seconds behind race leader Dario Franchitti. Right down on that white line. There was some concern about drivers getting too close to that line, and the air off the car sweeping pebbles up onto the racetrack that was causing problems with tires.
Well, and the safety crews worked that, tried to get all those pebbles out of there just in case the guy did get down too low.
Rahal, de Ferran, Carpentier, and Alonso Jr. 8, 9, 10, and 11. There's the view from our Honda Helicam. I just love these wide shots. They really give you a feeling for how quickly the cars are moving relative to the scenery. Alonso Jr. closing up a bit now on Carpentier for 10th place. Almost makes you dizzy. Look there at Bobby Rahal, the only owner driver in the series. Spoke with him earlier in the weekend. He said, yes, retirement is on the horizon. I'm not going to overstay my ability to be competitive. He set a date, but he says he'll know when.
That gives you a good feel of how fast it is. I stood at that spot during one of the practice sessions, and you can't believe how fast they're coming off there. Of course, they're doing, 195 miles an hour when they do.
Now, we noticed during qualifying that Bobby Rahal has that helmet cinched down awfully tight. You see it actually tilted down on the left side. That's Rahal just ahead as you ride with Gilles de Ferran.
The worst feeling in the world for a driver on an oval, other than something breaking, is when your neck goes. And when it goes, there is nothing you can do about it. You can push it over with one finger, and there's no way to support it except for those neck straps. Now, a lot of these guys have braces on the right side as well, pads for safety issues, but also for support on these short ovals.
I remember a few years ago in a sports car race at Lime Rock Park in Connecticut, Bryce Cobb, who's a pretty tough guy, got out of the car, and when our pit reporter went up and asked him why, he said, "I can't hold my head up." There is our race leader, Dario Franchitti, making his pit stop, his first pit stop as the leader in a PPG Kart World Series race. Marty Reed is waiting for him.
Yes, and they're a little bit out of sequence by about between 15 and 20 laps, depending on which car you're looking at. But they are going to put 4 of the brand new Firestone option tires. Track temperature now is down to 95 degrees. That's really probably the coolest we've been. Remember, qualifying yesterday was 135. Great stop. 13-4.
He'll be up to the 60-mile-an-hour pit lane speed limit when he gets to the blend line. His thumb comes off the rev limiter, and away he'll go.
They got to be a little careful on that pit lane because it's pretty slippery, and they don't want to stand on it too hard until they're out here on the back straight, especially with cold tires.
This is on lap number 97. Franchitti comes back out 16th. The new leader is Jimmy Vasser with Greg Moore just behind him. Where have we seen this before? There is Moore. We'll be back with more live from the Motorola 300 at Gateway International Raceway. Stay right there. We are back at Gateway International Raceway. Bobby Rahal is out of his race car, and that car is a dire emergency.
That is not just a little one. That is a big fire.
This is interesting. This morning we saw a couple of fires. Adrian Fernandez had one.
But also interesting is that don't forget his teammate, Brian Herta, jumped out of the car because he had some kind of fire under the front end of the car in some kind of an electrical problem. That's a gremlin that those guys will be working on pretty hard before Milwaukee.
The kart safety team knocked that one down in a hurry. Bobby Rahal's first DNF this year, and there is Rahal.
He's got his suit down there. He might have got a little singe on there. I don't know. He looked a little out of breath. Yeah, he's holding up his sleeve like he got a little burn.
That's exactly the place that Max Pappas burned earlier in the weekend when he had a fire in his Toyota.
Yeah, look at that's Dr. Steve Olvey right there. He's saying, hey, is anything wrong there? Of course, you grabbed Max Pappas on that spot.
You keep bringing that up. I went up and punched him on the shoulder on a good session, and he winced, and it's because he had a big piece of skin coming off his arm as a result of that fire.
Well, word to the wise, don't do that to Bobby.
Yes. We also had a sad moment for Dan Gurney's team. As you see, Bobby Rahal, who appears to be in good shape. P.J. Jones pulled off the racetrack into the pit lane exit, so he is well out of the way. And that means that both of the All-American Racers Toyotas are now out of the race. We are on lap number 106. Now let's get an update on the weather situation. Jan Beekes.
Well, we are watching the team of Ganassi Racing, and they were set up for Jimmy Vasser to make a pit stop. But now we're having some raindrops that are starting to fall here on pit lane. Not a lot of rain, but enough to where the crew decided, let's not pit right now. In case it rains, you certainly don't want to lose track position. The track is not wet, but there is a little bit of moisture that is hitting down here on pit road.
All right, thank you, Jan. There you see the ambulance leaving the scene of Bobby Rahal's little conflagration. We'll have to get that car out of the way before we can go green once again. Up front, Jimmy Vasser becomes our 6th leader of the day, following Raul Boesel, Paul Tracy, Alex Zanardi, Greg Moore, Dario Franchitti. Jimmy Vasser now in there. With respect to Franchitti, let me correct myself for all of our friends out there from the United Kingdom. It's the cross of St. Andrews on his helmet, not St. George. I think St. George is added to St. Andrews. It gives you the crosses on the British flag. And if I haven't started a complete international incident there, I may be right. These views coming to us from the Bud One airship, which reminds you fresh beer tastes better. Overhead, there may be raindrops on the Bud One airship shortly. Reports of scattered rain various places around the racetrack. Hasn't subdued the crowd at all. A huge crowd out on the midway behind the main grandstand, as well as those there. 45,000 strong in that grandstand, plus thousands more down on the infield. Virtual sellout here on the opening day, opening event, I should say, at Gateway International Raceway.
One of the things I've been impressed with is Target Chip Ganassi. Those guys have been strong. They're on the leaderboard. They've been running up in the top 3 all time. Their pit stops have been good, and they didn't qualify that well, 9th and 10th.
And as I recall last year, the short ovals were the weak link in the Honda armor. Vasser is up front with Moore and Zanardi behind him. The Ganassi Target boys 1st and 3rd. We'll be back in a moment. River coming up in 2 weeks. The next kart race on ABC Sports will be the Detroit Grand Prix, a 2.1-mile temporary street circuit. Michael Andretti, the defending champion, Sunday, June 8th, 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 1:30 Central and Pacific on ABC Sports. We are back to racing here at Gateway. Jimmy Vasser leads. Greg Moore runs 2nd. There's Vasser to the left of your screen, followed by the blue and white machine of Moore. Vasser rocketing away at the start.
He hasn't been out there as much as he'd like this season, and I know he likes that that spot, especially after last year's season.
Coming off a championship year, he has yet to win his first race in 1997. This is the 6th round of the championship. Scott Pruitt with Dario Franchitti just behind him. But Franchitti is actually 15th in the race. He runs a lap down.
Boy, look at the action back there. Those guys are really bad ones.
Paul Tracy trying to get around Gilles de Ferran. Ahead of him, Al Unser Jr. runs just behind Parker Johnstone. Johnstone in the green and white. Then Unser Jr. And Tracy and de Ferran wheel to wheel through 3 and 4. That's expanding the groove.
Whew. That gets your heart going right there, but Paul was not going to give up that spot.
Parker Johnstone wants a place from the white machine of Walter Salles, the Brazilian rookie. Andre Ribeiro, bright yellow accents on his machine. We haven't called his number much today. Unser and Tracy nose to tail. Now Tracy looks inside his teammate. Way down on the inside. He'll press the issue.
Well, Al really expanded the groove right there. He helped a lot of people. He knows he can work up there. Look at this.
They are
Look at
still
this.
wheel to wheel. Finally, Tracy makes the pass.
That is tough, and boy, you don't want to make a mistake with your teammate out there too. But look at this, Al Jr. is going to come right back.
This is for 7th place. Al decides to stay low this time. Oh, that was a moment.
But you know what, Al Unser Jr. is one of those guys you can race wheel to wheel with him like that, and you know you're going to have a real clean battle. He stayed right there. He didn't give up any ground.
He held his line. Good look at Gilles de Ferran, now running in 9th place. Tracy firmly in control of 7th. Marty Reed is down in the pit lane. Marty?
Yeah, we can update you on Bobby Rahal's situation. They saw on the telemetry a bunch of temperatures going up, what shouldn't have been going up. Their best speculation right now before they see the car is that they got a crack in the wastegate, and that's what caused the fire. Jan?
Marty, giving you an update on the crew member for Jimmy Vasser. His name is Kevin Edgley. He is okay. He's gone back to the garage area. He is icing down his left leg. The preliminary report is that he is not injured. Other than that, Jeff Stafford will replace him now as the left rear tire changer.
All right, thank you, guys. A couple of spots of rain on that camera lens. We are at the halfway point of this race. With this lap complete, it will be official, even if the clouds open. That is not expected, but if we should get showers, we are now officially a race.
Greg Moore has closed up that gap. His car seems to be working better as the fuel load lightens. And Jimmy Vasser's car seems to work very well right when they do the restart.
This is only the 2nd race this year that the defending PPG Cup champion Jimmy Vasser has led. He led 11 laps at Long Beach. And now we have a flag from the grandstand, a yellow flag, reportedly for moisture on the racetrack.
If I'm Jimmy Vasser at this stage, and we're past the halfway point, I'm saying, please, skies, open up.
Really?
Let's call this a race so I can go home with that victory.
Cockpits of these cars are way too confining for him to get a rain dance done, but he might well do it. Up behind the pace car he comes, pace truck. Down through the gearbox. You can see the rain beginning to splatter on his onboard. Vasser, Moore, Zanardi, Pruitt, Gugelmin, Johnstone, Tracy, Unser, de Ferran, and Ribeiro. The top 10, followed by Adrian Fernandez, Patrick Carpentier, Michael Andretti having a quiet race back in 13th, Richie Hearn 14th, Dario Franchitti, the first of the lapped cars, in 15th.
Whoa, he's way up there. Look at that. Whoa, Carpentier was way up in the gray. Made a big turn, brushed the wall. Doesn't look like very hard. He's seems to be okay, but I think that that might be what they were looking at on that yellow too. Hey, did the track get slippery? Let's take a look.
The wind continues to blow pretty stoutly. I would guess 20 to 25 miles an hour. That may help keep the racetrack dry enough to race on if the sprinkles should stop. Scott Pruitt runs in 4th place, having completed 2 stops, as have most of the lead cars, with the exception of Paul Tracy in 7th. Marty Reed has more on Pruitt.
Yeah, this is going to get interesting down here. I don't know if they're playing a game of chicken or not, but they have got the crew out and ready for a pit stop. But if they stay out and this were to become an official race, in 4th right now with everybody else in front of him, Scott Pruitt would retake the points lead. Jan?
Well, down here on this end, Marty, it was a game of chicken. They were set up for Jimmy Vasser and for Alex Zanardi, but they didn't come in. But we can see looking down pit road that the Penske cars have come in. So at the moment, they are down getting service, and the crew members down here for Ganassi, and we have a problem. Al Jr. is having a hard time getting away, and now it finally lights up.
And he does so just as Adrian Fernandez pulls into the pit lane. You saw Paul Tracy light up the rears in the most savage way, getting underway. Unser was away first, but then he was slowed, and Tracy managed to get out ahead of him. Alonso Jr. follows Fernandez back out of the Tasman pits. Cars work their way up to speed on the pit exit. Now more cars pitting, including, it appears, both of the Ganassi cars.
Now, Greg Moore has not had two of the best stops. He's lost some ground.
Here you see all three pit stops among the leaders. Vassar at the top, Moore in the middle, Zanardi on the bottom, and Moore's team gets him out very quickly. Jimmy Vassar is next to move, and then Zanardi. But Vassar managed to get ahead on the pit lane because he was further down the lane than Moore was. Jan Bikas.
Well, you may see, and you did see, 3 very fast pit stops there, but there's a lot of discussion going on down here with the CART officials, and that is because Tom Anderson just told me the reason they did not pit originally when the pits were open is they waited until after Jimmy Vassar, Greg Moore, and Alex Zanardi were already past the pit opening before they changed the sign to green. They thought the pits were still closed. Everyone else behind was able to come into the pits. Of course, there's Billy Camphausen leaning in, trying to talk with Tom Anderson, and they're trying to get clarification. But obviously, that is going to lose them track position, and that's a tough break. But they did make a fast stop when they were here.
The running order as presently shown: Michael Andretti, Richie Hearn, Paul Tracy, Gilles de Ferran, Andre Ribeiro, Adrian Fernandez, Alonso Jr., Parker Johnstone, Patrick Carpentier, and Jimmy Vassar. We'll be back with more of the Motorola 300 after these messages and a word from our ABC stations. Another beautiful view from high over the all-new Gateway International Raceway in Madison, Illinois, as the Motorola 300 continues. This view courtesy of our Honda Helicam. The sprinkles appear to have stopped. We hope to get back underway very shortly. As this race is unfolded, the drivers battling for the Jim Truman Rookie of the Year award have been a big part of our story. CART has some extremely talented rookies running the circuit this year, and their 3 full-time rookies are as diverse as their homelands. Dario Franchitti has 3 Italian grandparents, but his accent is pure Scotland. He spent last year in touring cars with a win and 6 podiums. Now he's in CART, a series he came to admire without ever seeing firsthand.
I'd really only ever seen it on TV. I hadn't been to a race before, but it just looked, the racing looked great on TV, and I thought I really want to be a part of that. The cars look good fun to drive, and they are.
For Walter Salas, the Rio 400 was a true home race. Born and raised in Rio de Janeiro. Last year, Salas challenged for the Firestone Indy Lights Championship with 3 wins. Like many of Brazil's new generation, Salas came to know kart racing through the great Emo.
Well, if there is one driver that I would like to emulate, it would be Emerson Fittipaldi for his character and his achievements outside the track. He's a guy that I think everybody likes it. So because of his character and because of the good heart that he has.
Patrick Carpentier is the 3rd of the rookie triumvirate, a former speed skating champion in Canada who dominated the Toyota Atlantic Championship last year en route to the title. Now he drives for Tony Bettenhausen and admits he may have underestimated the challenge of CART.
I thought it's everything I thought it would be in IndyCars, but it's even more than that. It's a lot more competitive than I thought it would be. I thought I was going to arrive there and just run in top 10 and be with the fastest guys all the time, but it's very different.
They are a very special group indeed. There you see the race leader, Michael Andretti. The first time we've seen him in that position today. He becomes, by my rough count, the 7th different leader we have had. We have 129 laps complete of 236 scheduled. We are into the second half of the race. That makes it official no matter what happens from this point forward. Mike has a quick look at his watch.
Checking his watch.
Let's get down to the pit lane. Jan Bikas is standing by.
Well, we've just been out jogging with Chip Ganassi. We ran all the way to the other end of pit road. You went and gave a piece of paper to Billy Camphausen about the order you want the cars to be in. What's the situation?
No, what I gave Billy a list of the cars that pitted. We were actually past the pit entrance when they opened the pits. The cars that were behind us on the lead lap all pitted, effectively getting in front of us, and the pits were closed when we came by. So the CART's done the right thing. I want to applaud Wally and Kirk and the CART organization. They did the right thing and said, wait a minute, we made a mistake. They're fixing it right now.
Okay, where are they going to put your drivers now?
Where they're supposed to be.
Which is?
I think we're we're in front of the cars that were on our segment. We're about, I want to say, 4th or so. We're good. They did the right thing.
Okay, well, here comes Billy. He wants to give you the final report. Thank you, Chip.
And happy birthday to Chip Ganassi, celebrating his 39th. We have several other birthdays this weekend. Brian Herta just turned 27 yesterday. John Della Pena, Richie Hearn's car owner, turns 45 on Monday. Now, about Chip Ganassi's team situation. Right now, his cars are shown 3rd, that's Jimmy Vasser, and 5th, Alex Zanardi. Right about where Chip said he thought they should be.
Right, and I think that was a smart move by Cart. They had to do it. We're under a yellow. A couple more laps not going to make any difference. Let's get them back there so that they can go racing. They've been racing up in the front all day.
Good job. Keeping track of these fields can be difficult, particularly when the yellow comes out and the pit action begins. We anticipate a green flag shortly, so we'll take a quick timeout. You ride with Michael Andretti at the top of the heap. We'll be back to the Motorola 300 in just a moment. Don't go away. Back live at Gateway International Raceway, the Motorola 300 continues. Round 6 of the PPG Kart World Series for 1997. Don't forget, coming up tomorrow, live from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the 81st Indianapolis 500, the greatest spectacle in racing. Arie Luyendyk is on the pole. It's coming your way live at 11 a.m. Eastern Time on ABC Sports. Here at Gateway, there's Bobby Rahal, whose car caught fire earlier in the race. He is all smiles now. Let's get down to Marty Reed in the pit lane.
Yeah, I don't know why he's all smiles. His right upper arm's got some nice little burns on there. You're not supposed to be doing your impersonation of Oscar Mayer.
Yeah, well, real shock. That's the first time for me we've had something like that. The return fuel line broke. The fitting broke. You know, that's the line that return, when you get so much fuel, it gets pumped into the engine, then it returns more, you know, what it doesn't need. So it was like a fire hose, basically just spewing methanol all over the car, and it was lucky because it got hot in a big hurry, and I was lucky to get it slowed down and jump out, but it's you know, not fun.
Okay, what's the doctor say about the burns? First, second?
Second degree, just sort of like a bad sunburn, and you know, just keep ice on it. And don't do anything dumb. You know, it'll be fine. You know, I'm not worried about it at all.
It's on to Milwaukee. Jan?
Well, Marty, checking in, of course, with Greg Moore. He was the 3rd car involved in the cars that were late coming onto pit road. They are happy with what Cart has done, as is Chip Ganassi. Now they're ready to go. They made a slight wing change, and he says the car should be perfect.
All right, thanks, guys. Notice Bobby Rahal has perfected a new exit technique on those cars.
Did you see that steering wheel? Boy, did he throw that out there, and then, of course, he hits the brakes, the wheels turn left. He wanted to get out there, which is the smartest move.
Absolutely. We anticipate a green flag. The running order is Andretti, Richie Hearn, Jimmy Vasser, then Greg Moore, Alex Zanardi, and Scott Pruitt. The green flag waves. We are underway. This is lap 136. 100 laps to go, and immediately Jimmy Vasser attacks Richie Hearn.
And it looks like Alex Zanardi got through. He passed Greg Moore.
So the order is now Andretti, Vasser, Hearn, Zanardi, Moore. All in the space of one turn. Michael Andretti with a great jump. We'll see if Jimmy Vasser can run him down. Mauricio Gugelmin with Parker Johnstone just behind him. And then Paul Tracy, followed by Al Unser Jr. 4 in a row. They are closing up on Scott Pruitt in 6th. Greg Moore goes around Richie Hearn. So Moore now up into 4th. Hearn drops to 5th.
Now, Richie Hearn was tough to get by earlier on, but they seem to have disposed of him pretty quickly right there.
Skies appear to be lightening just a little bit. And that's good news. Hopefully we'll get the rest of this race in. Paul Tracy dogging Parker Johnstone. Johnstone in the green and white machine. Tracy in the bright red and white.
And Al Unser Jr. taking a look right down there underneath. Those guys are racing.
Marty Reed can add to this story. Let's check on Michael Andretti's story with Marty Reed.
Okay, guys, you were talking about Michael, and you said that, hey, that this would be great news. We could get the race in. Well, that is not great news for Michael Andretti. When they made the decision to stay out, he asked the crew, start doing a rain dance, fellas, because they have to pit in about, lap 150, and they're out of sequence.
That's 10 laps from right now as Parker Johnstone comes under fire from Paul Tracy. Johnstone forced up high.
That's going to give Little Al a run on him down the back straightaway. He's going to try to put him down another spot. This is a much quicker corner, a lot less braking. Parker could carry his speed.
Paul Tracy quickly drawing away in the number 3 car. There's Johnstone, followed by Unser. Unser now dropping back a few car lengths. That it has ebbed and flowed over the last 3 laps. Johnstone driving for Barry Green, who carried Jacques Villeneuve to the championship a couple of seasons back. Moving further back, Gilles de Ferran. There's Andre Ribeiro, driving for Steve Horn and the Tasman team. We have an incident down in 1 and 2. That's one of the Brahma cars, one of the Pat Patrick machines.
There's his teammate going right there down to the left.
That is Scott Pruitt. Moving around in the cockpit, undoing the belts.
Boy, he's torn that car up in a big way.
Amazing to see these drivers climb from the cars.
Safety crew, of course, tremendous right there grabbing him, because you feel like, hey, I can get out of this car. I got to get out of this car, and you don't always have your feet under you the way you'd like to.
Take another look at what happened. For the right of your screen, spinning going in, a huge impact.
Yeah, he had spun. It looked like he'd been up in that gray. He was already sideways. Luckily, he went in there with the back end first.
He was running 6th at the time. Pruitt being talked to by the kart safety team at the vehicle.
He's taking off his gloves there, so they're probably asking him if he knows what day it is and who the president is and who his team owner is.
Massive backward impact.
Of course, the other part of the safety crew quickly trying to get everything out of the way so we can get back to racing, clean up the track. Here comes an ambulance, which is a standard procedure. If you make contact with the wall, you've got to go in the ambulance to the infield hospital.
This taking place on lap 145. The pits are closed. Now the sign comes down and the pits are open for the lead lap cars. The field has not yet reached the pit in. You ride with Michael Andretti, who has chosen not to pit yet. Let's see, he's approaching the pit entrance at the other end of this straightaway. We'll see whether the race leader comes in. Past the scene of the accident, Jan Beekes.
Allenser Jr. for a moment looked like he was going to come on pit road because he felt he had run over debris. But because they have the sensors on the wheels, this tells you the actual tire pressure. They've been able to monitor that and tell Allenser Jr. that no, your tire is not going down. So the modern age of technology has saved Allenser Jr. for now a pit stop.
And of course that technology is legal. It's out there, it's available and so forth, and that's a safety issue.
Michael Andretti has chosen not to pit from the lead position.
Well, he has chosen not to pit yet. But don't forget, they're trying to stretch that out, because if they pit right now and this goes another 5, 6, 7 laps of a yellow and he does it at the end, it gives him a bigger window if he pits later on.
The other car staying out behind him. Now let's take another look at that accident from Scott Pruitt's onboard camera.
This is off of 4. There's the Firestone Bridge. We're coming down into turn 1. Brakes in there. Looks normal. Whoa, he just got sideways. He lost it around there. I don't know if something went down or he had a little movement right before he got sideways. You saw the car move just a little bit. It could have been some oil or anything. He could have been a little bit up in the gray. And boy, when you lose it like that, though, you just kind of crunch down because you know this is going to hurt.
Well, that shows you how they're on the knife edge of balance going through those corners. Just the slightest little input. Next thing you knew, the back end had come around.
Don't forget, at that point, he's still probably doing 155 to 165 miles an hour. In qualifying, they were doing 169 through turn 1. Greg Moore went through there at 175. So let me tell you, 160 miles an hour is still plenty quick. There's not that many tracks where we have an average of 160 miles an hour.
Well, we'll take this opportunity to step away for a moment from high overhead, the Bud 1 airship, providing great aerial pictures. Remember, the Bud 1 airship reminds you fresh beer tastes better. We'll be back with more live from the Motorola 300 at Gateway International Raceway. Michael Andretti out front. See if he pits before we go green. Stay with us for more from Illinois. Will be the oldest active racetrack in America, the Milwaukee Mile, for an action-packed afternoon of racing. Last year, Al Unser Jr. and Michael Andretti battled to the checkered flag. Andretti made the final pass and won the race, breaking a tie with Little Al for winningest active driver in the series. The Miller 200 coming your way June 1st, 2 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPN. Back at Gateway, Bob Varsha, Danny Sullivan with you. Let's update today's stories while we're under yellow. Where's the groove? Well, Danny, we found out cars can go side by side.
And they've been gradually moving that groove up into 2 lanes.
Traffic has been a factor. Slower cars putting some of the spice into the lead battles. Pit strategy has been critical, and we've had lots of pit stops under yellow flags. Let's get physical. Well, only the drivers can say for sure, but you can bet they are working hard, and the weather has held off. We have had a sprinkle of rain that brought out a yellow, but it looks like, as I knock on wood, we might get this one all the way to 236 laps. Here's a look at our race summary. Race leader right now, Michael Andretti, the 7th leader we've had through 150 laps. The green flag race average speed touching 169 plus 7 caution flags for 53 laps, 8 cars out of the race. Most recently, Scott Pruitt with a spectacular spin into the wall backwards. Here are the cars that are out. Pruitt, Bobby Rahal, who had a fire, he's okay. B.J. Jones pulled off. Brian Herta also had a similar fire in his car. He is a teammate to Bobby Rahal. Juan Fangio lost an engine. Mark Blundell had mechanical problems, as did Roberto Moreno and Max Pappas. Down to the pit lane and Jan Bikas.
Well, Bob, while we have a minute, let's talk about new racetracks and asphalt. How does the tire companies decide what to bring here? Well, you can see what the promoters do. They actually take a plug out of the asphalt and send it to each of the tire companies. If you walk up and down pit road, you can see about 20 or 30 of these. They send some to teams, some to the tire manufacturers. They analyze it. In this case, both Firestone and Goodyear take it back to their labs, and obviously they had similar results because they're running very close on the racetrack.
All right, thank you, Jan. There you see the kart safety team at work on the scene of Scott Pruitt's accident.
All that white, though, is not from his accident. That's a lime that they put down on the track to help seal it because the track is new. But they've got to make sure in case somebody, because we saw Patrick Carpentier running up there earlier. He had a moment. He didn't want to be up there, but he had a moment.
He managed to find some grip, and that was important.
Yeah, one guy was sweeping up, and the other guy was having that little blower going down. So I don't know who won on that one.
Nobody has left the grandstand. As you can see, 45,000 strong, waiting for us to go green once again. That will happen very shortly. A beautiful day, save for a raindrop or two here in Madison, Illinois. We'll be back for more of the Motorola 300 after these messages and a word from our ABC stations. Welcome back live to Gateway International Raceway. Bob Varsha, Danny Sullivan, Jan Bikas, and Marty Reed with you for the inaugural Motorola 300. Track preparation is nearly complete after Scott Pruitt's accident. It's been a busy week for most of the drivers here as they visit the St. Louis market for the first time. Last Tuesday night, Alex Zanardi and car owner Chip Ganassi, who's a part owner of the Pittsburgh Pirates baseball team, visited Busch Stadium. After some advice from Pirates manager Gene Lamont, Alex checked his batting grip and gleaned a few fielding secrets from the wizard himself, future Cardinals Hall of Famer Ozzie Smith. Then they headed for the seats, where Chip offered some insights into the work of the umpires for Alex. And Zanardi soaked up about as much of America's pastime as a boy might who thinks that bats have wings.
It's not going so well for the Pirates so far.
It's early yet. It's early yet.
I know, but I don't really understand when it's early or when it's too late, so.
Never too late to learn about baseball. Alex, a good time was had by all. In a moment, we will get a green flag and resume racing. We are on lap 156 of 236 scheduled, and the race leader will ride with Michael Andretti. Let's get down to Marty Reed.
Let's give you a quick update on Scott Pruitt. He is awake, coherent. He's with his wife and his mother, and everybody says it's okay. But they are going to keep him there in the medical center for about 20 to 25 more minutes just to be on the safe side. Jan, I'm feeling something on my forehead. I don't like the feel of it.
Yeah, that's right, Marty. On both ends of pit road, we are starting to have some rain. You may be able to see it come across the camera lens. It is not really developing, obviously, any standing water, which would be a huge problem. If this cloud that's over us right now moves swiftly, of course, there is quite a breeze down here. It shouldn't cause too much of a problem. But look down at the asphalt. You can see the actual raindrops where they hit. That is not a problem for a race car, but they obviously will not throw the green until they're sure that those raindrops have moved away.
All right, thank you, guys. You ride with Jimmy Vasser. Drops of rain on the camera lens. Vasser runs in second place behind Michael Andretti. Marty Reed has more on Michael.
And these guys are loving this rain down here. They may have a connection that we don't know about because they have been praying for rain. They will not tell us when they will pit. They are being very quiet about that. They're not even talking about it on the radio to Michael because they know everybody's listening in on the frequencies.
And among those listening in, right there in the middle of your picture, Mario Andretti, who comes to each stop on the tour to watch Michael at work.
I'd be willing to bet, too, they've been on the phone to the pilots of both Carl Haas's plane, probably Paul Newman's plane, and probably Mario and Michael's plane to find out what the weather forecast is from the pilot's point of view.
Jan Beekes.
Talking about fuel and talking about Michael Andretti. When they run under yellow here, typically it doesn't matter whether it's Mercedes, Ford, Honda, or Toyota. They get about 6 miles per gallon when they're running at this kind of speed. They put it in a very high gear, keep the RPMs low, and of course the standard mile per gallon that they run here is 1.85. So they can get over triple the mileage under yellow. Obviously that's what Michael and everyone else is doing out on the track right now.
All right, thank you, Jan and Marty. Here's a look at our running order while we wait out this brief shower on the racetrack. Michael Andretti, your leader, followed by Jimmy Vasser and Alex Zanardi, the teammates. Greg Moore, Mauricio Gugelmin, Paul Tracy, Parker Johnstone, Al Unser Jr. 27 years ago. Al's father, Al Unser Sr., won the last race for this kind of race car, back then known as Champ Cars, on the Dirt Mile at DuQuoin, Illinois. Now Unser is back racing in Illinois once again. There you see the rest of the field, including cars that are out. Scott Pruitt being the most recent of those. His teammate Raul Boesel changed an electrical spark box in the car, got back out. He started on pole. Right now he runs in 17th place, 5 laps behind Michael Andretti. We'll step away for a moment and be back with more live from Gateway International Raceway as the inaugural Motorola 300 continues. Stay with us. Welcome back to Gateway International Raceway, the newest oval on the American racing scene. The Motorola 300 continues here on ABC Sports. Back in 1967, this racetrack was a simple 1/8 of a mile drag strip that runs right through the property where the oval track now sits. But boy, how things have changed. In 1994, Chris Pook, president and CEO of the Grand Prix Association of Long Beach, had a plan to bring racing back to the St. Louis area in the biggest possible way. Crews broke ground 11 months ago to construct the 1.27-mile oval and a 1/4 mile drag strip. Working against a very tight schedule, they pulled off the miracle got this place ready to race in just 11 months. The total budget for the project was $25 million. Total capacity in the main grandstand, 45,000, with room for expansion to 80,000 fans. A remarkable achievement in public and private cooperation, and a fabulous facility, including 30 luxury suites with an amazing view of the front straightaway and turns 1 and 2. Right now, the track is occupied by the pride of the PPG Kart World Series, round 6, the Motorola 300. Michael Andretti is the leader, and the drivers have had nothing but good things to say about this racetrack, Danny.
Well, they have. I think it reminds a lot of them of Phoenix, except without that little dog leg in the back. And I know that almost every driver really enjoyed going to Phoenix. In fact, that shot right there almost looks like Phoenix with that building down there. And, you know, it's just a fabulous facility, very fast. They said it was very physical. Everybody enjoyed it. I think they feel well about the safety facilities of it. The pits were nice.
All in all, a great addition to the racing scene here in Mid-America. Down to Jan Bikas in the pits.
While you're talking about track construction, look at the size of the pit boxes here. They are 50 feet long. That is the largest pit box they've ever had in kart competition. The next largest is 39 feet down at Homestead. Now, we're down here with Greg Moore and the Players Forsyth team. It's raining just a little bit. Now it's starting to clear up. What are they talking about on the radio? They radio to Greg Moore. Greg, can we do anything for you? He says, well, you know, I'm bored. I want to go fast. Now, a little bit of trivia before we go down to Marty Reed, and that is, why does Greg Moore have the preferred pit position when right next door is Roger Penske when they out-qualified them at the previous race? Well, if you have two cars, they qualified 5th and 9th. Greg Moore qualified 8th. It's not the actual qualifying position. They have to average the time that Penske did, which turned out to be just a tick slower than Greg Moore. They got the preferred spot. Let's go down to Marty Reed.
Yeah, Danny, you were talking about pilots and all the contact and the weather report. Well, let's find out from Paul. Have you called your pilot?
Well, they always say luck is an art, but we've got about 4 planes up there seeding the clouds right now.
All right. I've been trying. I mean, everybody is like hush-hush in your camp. How far can you guys go before you have to stop?
Far.
I'll tell you what. This is like pulling teeth down here today, guys. I'm telling you.
Well, everybody's got their own strategy, and we're entitled to ours.
Yeah, you know, I keep saying DSS is the curse of our job down here because everybody's watching the dish, and as soon as they see somebody from another team come on, it's like, turn up the volume. We got to find out what's going on. And you guys have done a real good job so far of staying hush-hush.
Yes. Well, we'll see. It's in the hands of the gods.
And your 4 pilots.
Yes, and the pilots and Michael, of course.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. We have 72 laps remaining. Now, keep in mind, earlier in the race, Paul Tracy went 64 laps on a load of fuel. So we're getting very, very close to that window. From our position high above the front straightaway, the rain sprinkles have not completely stopped. So things are going to get interesting here as we get closer and closer to that fuel window.
But don't forget, they also have to calculate those yellow laps and the green laps during that 64-lap run. So these guys are constantly doing the math, trying to figure out if it goes green again, how long can they go in that condition? Because they are burning fuel right now, of course.
And if you were with us for our most recent race, the Rio 400, Bobby Rahal's team can tell you just how close those calculations can come and just how much is stake when you roll the dice on fuel and either get it right or get it wrong. Gateway arches across the mighty Mississippi. We'll be back in just a moment. Back live at Gateway International Raceway, where the rain sprinkles continue very, very lightly. They keep us under a caution flag. Coming up next on ABC Sports, great golf action. The JCPenney LPGA Skins Game. Defending champion and 96 LPGA Golfer of the Year, Laura Davies. 96 money leader, Carrie Webb, Dottie Pepper, Anika Sorenstam. They'll be teeing it up next on ABC Sports. Here at Gateway International Raceway, the field lines up behind Michael Andretti. No word yet on when we will attempt a green flag. Let's get down to Jan Bikas.
Well, Bob, sometimes when you have raindrops, it gives us a chance to take an inside look at what happens here on pit road. can see a few raindrops, but you also see tools that are taped to this front wing for Adrian Fernandez. You can see the actual bolts for the nose are taped here, and those tools that are taped to the front of the wing are obviously to change it. Now, if you were to damage the rear wing, here is the exact tool that you need to do one side, and here is the wrench for the other. So it's taped to the bottom side of the wing. You can see the bolts and the nuts were there as well. So the Tasman crew is ready for something they hope they never have to use, but it does help in case you need it. Let's go to Marty Reed.
All right, we're standing with Bruce McCall. His man right now, Mo Gugelman, is running in 5th. You've had the bitter and the sweet so far. The bitter, of course, earlier when Mark Blundell went out, and I know there was a lot of pressure with it being the Motorola 300 and his car being a Motorola car.
Well, that's right. We were really disappointed. Mark went out early. He started quite a ways back, but he had a really good race car. He was running well. He was moving right through the field. So we're very disappointed for all the Motorola folks, but we're thrilled to see the crowd out here today, and great run. Mauricio's running well, and we're hoping we'll go green here in a few minutes and run to the finish. We've got a good car with Mauricio, and we're very excited about it.
And you're not going to tell me when you're going to have to pit either, are you?
Not a chance.
Boy, nobody likes me today. I'll tell you what, come on over here real quick, because I just happened to see the man I've wanted to talk to, and this is a good sight. Scott Pruitt, I'm glad to see you standing and being able to talk to me, because that was one wicked crash.
That was a big hit. I think that says a lot about CART and their safety, and you know how they really work on the cars. And it's unfortunate for us. I mean, the Brahma guys are doing a great job. Our pit stops are right on real quick. We were fighting a brake pedal in traffic. It just kept going down and going down and going down. And I was pumping it, and just got in there and went for the brake pedal and just went right to the floor. And I thought I might be able to make it around, but just got down in there and just popped out from underneath me.
Yeah, I thought for a second something broke because it stepped right out on you.
No, I just, just going in there, typically just get on the brakes a little bit and get the car woed and then get down at the bottom, and tried to do that, and it just came around on me. I was just going, whoa, and just slipped out and took a shot. That was a big shot.
Yeah, it was. Hey, the safety, though, of these cars. We've talked about it before. Let's talk about it again. Sometimes you don't walk away from those in other forms of racing. This one, you did.
It says a lot. I don't know how many G's we pulled, but it was a lot. And now with this weather, it's really unfortunate. I mean, if we could hang in there for a little bit, and we'll keep at it in the points race and points championship, and hopefully we can come back in Milwaukee.
Well, as I said, it's great to talk to you. We'll see you in Milwaukee.
Thank you.
Jan?
Well, Marty, something you can do in the rain, obviously, is play football, but you can't go and drive race cars in the rain. Joe Montana, obviously involved with Target Team Ganassi. You guys right now are running 2nd and 3rd. We know that Michael needs fuel. Obviously, you got to be pretty excited considering that qualifying didn't go too well.
Well, definitely. We're excited to be in this position. We like to get the race going because we've actually been outrunning Michael most of the time. So it'd be interesting because Michael gets tough when he's in the lead. So I like to see the guys at least finish it out there on the track, whether we win it or lose it. Everybody, that way we can answer a lot of questions, and our guys at least have a shot at it.
Now, what is your role here? You have a headset on, you're up in the timing stand. What is your active role during the race?
I'm a spectator. I'm just having fun with it. I'm just still learning, so it's just been a lot of fun and listening to what they're doing and talking about and the decisions made. But basically, I leave all that up to Chip. I mean, he's the expert, not me. Those guys are getting paid for what they do, and I just here enjoying it.
Now, what is your attraction to auto racing? Obviously, we've heard that you enjoy that, but what is it about racing that's got a grip on you?
I think it's anything that every little boy's dream, is to get in a car and go fast. And then this is the ultimate when you look at cars that go fast, as far as I'm concerned. It's almost like an airplane flying upside down but being pushed into the ground instead. And the things these guys go through and to watch the interaction on the racetrack, just gets you going. And when your cars, I was just telling the guys that it's nothing better than seeing our guys right next to each other, especially up in the front.
All right, Joe Montana, you heard it from him, but he said he doesn't do much, but I think the team thinks he's a good luck charm. Let's go to Marty Reed.
Well, I'm looking at Barry Green's face, and a 7th place run with all the misfortune this team's had, I would think you'd have a smile on your face, which may lead me to believe, do you have a problem?
Oh, no, we don't have a problem, Marty. In fact, the car is really good right now. We were a little off pace at the start of the race, but made a couple of adjustments in the pit stops, and Parker's really pleased with the car right now. A little frustrated, we keep looking up. We think it's going to get brighter, and it does, and it starts to rain a little bit again. But no, we'd like to go back racing because we think there's a couple of guys up front of us that are going to have to make some different moves on what we're going to do, and we would like to get it back and go the full distance.
Guys, I'm telling you, I'm not even going to ask when he's going to stop because I'm tired of being told nobody's going to tell me. I'll tell you one thing, though. As far as the pace of this race, has he said anything about the fatigue factor? Because Parker's one of the guys that's most physically fit out here.
Well, he was working hard in the early part of the race, but that was mainly because of the car. And, you know, we've got the balance back, and he's a lot more comfortable now. But there's a lot of guys around him that are plenty fast, too, and they're pretty keen to win the race. No, we haven't talked much about that. He is fit. It's pretty easy under these conditions. We want to go back to green.
Yeah, so do we. Bob?
All right, thanks, guys. 64 laps to go. Keep in mind, Paul Tracy did 64 laps on a load of fuel earlier in the race. So we are entering the window where final pit stops can be made, and be assured of going the rest of the way.
The guys that are working the hardest at the moment are the guys calculating the fuel stops, and that changes every lap that they go under yellow.
There you see Jimmy Vasser. He has led 24 laps. His teammate has led 6. That makes a total of 30 laps for Target Team Ganassi. And that's 30 laps worth of $25 donations to the Target House at St. Jude's Children's Hospital just down the Mississippi in Memphis, Tennessee. If Jimmy or Alex can come through and win the race, Ganassi Racing will write a check for $5,000 toward the Target House. While the raindrops continue to sprinkle in the most agonizing way, we'll take a timeout and return. We'll be back with more from Gateway International Raceway. National Raceway, it appears the rain is drying up, and we hope to be back to green flag racing conditions shortly. Tomorrow night on ABC, if you're tired of reruns, a brand new episode of Second Noah is just what you're looking for. Then an hour of America's Funniest Home Videos, followed by Anthony LaPaglia and the world premiere miniseries Diary of a Serial Killer, a Murder One special event, all tomorrow night on ABC. Michael Andretti leads the train as we await a green flag. Let's get down to the pit lane and Jan Bikas.
Tom Anderson is the managing director for Target Team Ganassi. Now, Tom, you guys were just flipping a coin. You and Chip Ganassi flipped a coin. Obviously, that was a decision as to whether to pit or not. What did you decide?
Well, we decided that he won the toss, and it's his decision, so I'm waiting for his instruction.
Now, what is it that you're trying to balance here? It looks like the rain has stopped, could go green any time, but now is your pit window open?
Oh, yeah, the pit window's open right now. I mean, you could go from here to the end. So it just depends on how the rain goes and what the yellow happens from here. But we just didn't both want to make the same mistake.
Now, you're talking about splitting the cars. Does that mean you might pit one car and not the other so you have your bases covered?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, has that decision been made?
No.
Thank you, Tom.
Thanks.
Marty?
Okay, I'm down here with Derek Walker. Derek's on the radio to his man, Gilles de Ferran. It looks like where we're at, we could go racing, but you say conversation with Gilles, it's different out there?
Well, it's changing as we speak. A couple of minutes ago, it was pretty heavy over in turn 3 and 4. Now it looks like it's looking a lot better, and I think Cart's going to try and get it underway here in about 2 or 3 laps.
And you're saying your car's finally starting to come in?
Well, no, it really depends. I'd say about 93. On 93 is roughly about where the window might be.
So we finally got somebody, guys, to tell us what lap they may be coming in on here. Running in 9th place, Gilles de Ferran.
All right, thank you, guys. How about that chain of command down there at Team Ganassi?
Yeah, flipped a coin. How many sides do you think were on that coin? Was that a two-headed coin?
Down on the racetrack, Michael Andretti is up front.
And Derek Walker, of course, gave us an answer, but that doesn't mean that that's what they're going to actually do, because a lot of it will just keep being recalculated with this yellow situation.
Jan and Marty are going to be so persistent. Pretty soon guys will fudge just to get them out of their faces. It is Andretti, Vasser, Zanardi, Greg Moore, who has been quick all day, Mauricio Gugelmin, Paul Tracy, Parker Johnstone, Al Unser Jr., Gilles de Ferran, and Andre Ribeiro in the top 10.
Of course, one other factor in here is this puts a lot of pressure on the drivers because they know it adds something to it. Most of them going to have to fill up one more time, but they've got to make something happen because 1, the rain is out there, and 2, they're getting close to the end of the race.
Now shortly the revs will start to build. Word is we will get the green flag in 2 laps. Jan Bikas.
Well, check out these little radios. Of course, you see big radios up and down pit road that both the teams and the drivers use. Of course, Motorola is a sponsor here, and they have just introduced some new radios. They're called the Talkabout. And the idea is that you take them out with your family, you go skiing or whatever, you give them to your kids, or at home if you're trying to find somebody. You don't need a license. It has a new frequency. I guess it's called the Family Band. So this gives us an opportunity. You obviously have a new sponsor here. They have some new products, and this is also an idea for the fans in the stand to be able to talk to each other at the same time that they listen to the scanner during the race. So another added bonus for the race fan.
Battery's not included, I'm sure. And you'll go through some, I'm sure.
And he gave one flag to go. See some, there's one of the cars has been in the pits.
That's Zanardi.
He's leaving. He obviously topped up with that fuel, and he's going to try to run green all the way till the end.
So that takes him out of third place, moves Greg Moore up to that spot. Zanardi moves back out to take his place on the line. He will be just behind Patrick Carpentier. Zanardi now in 15th. Up front, the revs come up. Michael Andretti to the left of your screen. Jimmy Vasser behind him. Greg Moore in blue and white. They are off the corner. The signal from the spotters. Green flag. And immediately, Paul Tracy is on the move. He dives underneath Mauricio Gugelmin for fourth. There is Tracy.
Looks like he's trying to make a move on Greg Moore as well, and there's his teammate Al Unser Jr., and he does make a move on Greg Moore.
Paul Tracy is absolutely flying. He has won the last 2 races in the series, and he has definitely got something cooking here as his teammate Al Unser Jr. heads for the Penske pits. Look at Paul Tracy draw away from Greg Moore. Meanwhile, in the pit lane, there is Al, and they're looking in the back of the car. That is not good news. The belts come off, and Al Unser Jr. will climb out.
Taking his head restraint.
What a disappointment for Al Jr. 27 years after his dad won the last race for championship cars here in Illinois. His day is finished. Meanwhile, Paul Tracy tries to close the gap on the red machine of Jimmy Vasser.
And look at him close up. He is really hooked up at the moment.
Back from Vasser to Tracy. To turn 1. Moore not losing much ground in this battle.
Not on that battle, but they're all losing a little bit of ground to Michael Andretti. He seems to be just stretching it out just a hair on these guys.
There's Tracy. Onto the backstretch. Jan Beekes has caught up with Al Unser Jr.
Al, what happened to your car?
What finally knocked me out there was the gearbox busted.
You said finally. What was the problems you were having earlier? You said finally. What were the problems you had earlier?
Well, at the beginning of the race there, I had a wicker bill that was starting to come out. That's why I came in that one pit stop. And then I guess I'm supposed to go back to the back of the pack, which I didn't realize. And so when we started again, then they told me I had to go back to the back of the pack, so I went to the back, working our way up through there. Came in and had a bad clutch on my one stop, and then, but that all kind of worked itself out because they kind of made some bad calls up in kart, and then finally what knocked me out was the gearbox.
Okay, obviously Al Unser Jr. not happy with the call upstairs. 3 guys happy, but obviously those who were moved back are not, Bob.
Thank you, Jan. Meanwhile, Michael Andretti's lead is shrinking. Jimmy Vasser, Paul Tracy, Greg Moore all closing. Tracy now looking inside Vasser. Oh, the series champion will not let him in. That was close.
And look at that. He got up there high, so Greg Moore gets a run off of that back straight. Look at that. Paul keeps. Those guys are really dicing. And look at Jimmy.
Vasser goes underneath Andretti for the race lead. And Tracy and Moore come up quickly. Does Michael have a problem? Or did he just lose momentum in 3 and 4? He drops back to 4th place in the space of a half lap.
He's losing a lot of ground. Big Mo's right behind him. I don't know what happened to him there. He's still trying to hang in there, but he looked like he lost a tremendous amount of momentum.
Meanwhile, Paul Tracy runs in 2nd place. Greg Moore behind him. And then Michael Andretti dropping further and further back. That's Mauricio Gugelmin. Right there, ready to take advantage. Parker Johnstone in the green and white car behind Gugelmin.
Look at this. He's going down there. I'd say Michael's got a problem.
Seem to listen to Michael's car. It appears to be wrong outwardly. Now Andretti is back in 5th spot, and Parker Johnstone is next to take a shot at him. Marty Reed, what can you tell us about Michael?
Telling me that nothing's wrong with the car right now. They are playing with the fuel mixture, trying to get as much as mileage as they can out of this thing, but they're saying there's no real problem with the race car. I don't know if maybe the handling's starting to go away because of the changing track conditions.
Well, either that or everybody else has got their fuel mixture turned up and they're burning, you know, closer to 100%, so they got more horsepower and just stronger down the straightaway.
Andretti leads Johnstone. Andre Ribeiro is now up in the middle of that fight, and Johnstone goes underneath Andretti to take away 5th place. Meanwhile, the leaders in traffic. Jimmy Vasser at the bottom of your screen. Out from behind the white machine of Walter Salas comes Paul Tracy and Greg Moore right there.
And as we've seen all day long, look how high Greg Moore goes off of that turn 2. But as we've seen all day long, he seems to take a couple laps to get that thing settled in. And then he seems to run stronger as he gets further into his run. Of course, as we predicted at the beginning of the show, traffic plays an important part here.
Look at the numbers on the gap between Tracy and Moore in the battle for 2nd place and the way it's fluctuated over the last 3 laps. Came right down to 5/100ths of a second. Tracy on the left, Moore on the right, running 2nd and 3rd. Behind this group, Mauricio Gugelmin. There's Walter Salas in the white car. Michel Jourdain. They're both several laps down. There's Andre Ribeiro. Just behind Ribeiro is Dario Franchitti. Oh, and something flew off Franchitti's car.
I think that was just something that was on the track, just a piece of black debris. It could have been like a piece of headrest. It looked small like that, but of course that will bring out the yellow. And that helps Michael Andretti tremendously. Everybody, I think, will pit at this stage to fill him up and run strong.
There's another look. Watch the car on the left as Franchitti goes low.
Yeah, something comes up. Almost looks like
part of his head restraint.
A head restraint, a pad. Yes, that's just a pad from inside the car. That won't cause anybody a problem. But, of course, the yellow will come out. They don't know that until they go out and pick it up.
Franchitti now loses a bolster. It looks like it might be the one to the left of the driver. Driver's left, that is. We are under a yellow. Pits are closed. Jimmy Vasser leads Paul Tracy. This action taking place as we come around to complete lap 197. All-important round of final stops coming up.
Now the hardest part is, of course, what has everybody done before, including Paul Tracy? Does he have enough fuel? I mean, after that yellow, or is he going to have to get a splash? Are they going to take a chance and hope for another yellow with just 39 laps to go?
Can you stay out? We saw Alex Zanardi come in for a splash before we went green. He went to the back of the lead lap cars.
Now, is that going to, with this round of pit stops, move him to the front?
Into the pits they come. Pits are now open, and everybody heading this way. Jimmy Vasser in red. Red and white machine of Paul Tracy. The blue and white machine of Greg Moore. While the lapped cars stay on the racetrack. Jan Bikus.
Jimmy Vasser is here, and he's only getting fuel at the moment. They are not going to put tires on his car. 8.22 seconds. A very quick stop. Here comes Greg Moore.
Greg Moore got out ahead of Paul Tracy, but behind Jimmy Vasser.
But remember, Paul Tracy got tires. The other two guys just took on fuel.
Marty Reed.
Yes, and if you look at Michael Andretti, they put 2 full turns out of the front wing. That means the car must have been loose, and that's why he was falling back.
And Andretti comes back out. Dario Franchitti moves into the lead under yellow, with plenty of laps still to come. We'll step away and be back for more live from Gateway International Raceway in just a moment. Welcome back to the Motorola 300. We are back under green flag conditions. Dario Franchitti leads the race over Patrick Carpentier in a battle of the series rookies. There is Franchitti. Down to Marty Reed.
Hey, Dario Franchitti, I'm down here. We may have another Rio brewing here, guys. These guys are going to roll the dice. They are going to go for it. They are short right now. They need one more yellow. Jan.
Just news from the Players Foresight team. Greg Moore has a tire coming down. He's coming onto pit road as we speak. They came in here a moment ago, and all they did was take fuel. But now a tire is going down, and I don't hear the engine running. For some reason, he has no fire. Here comes the electric starter. Boy, Greg Moore's got to be dying right now, losing all these positions on the track. And boy, a tough day for Greg Moore. It was looking so good up until this point.
Greg Moore drops all the way back to 14th place.
And he's not on the track yet either.
That's right. As the field comes down the start-finish straightaway, he is a lap down. Here comes the race leader, Franchitti. Carpentier behind him, and Alex Zanardi, who stayed out on the racetrack during that rush of pit stops. Here's Paul Tracy going underneath Jimmy Vasser. Give Tracy 5th. He drops Vasser to 6th.
Don't forget, he's got a full load, but he's got fresh tires on there too. Jimmy Vasser did not take on tires. They went with a splash of fuel.
Over the bump, out of 4. Flashing under the flag stand at 175 miles an hour. Not taking a gear in turns 1 and 2 as his teammate Alex Zanardi was earlier in the race. Zanardi runs 3 places ahead of his teammate. Greg Moore back on the racetrack, but not yet up to speed. Gilles de Ferran on the left running 4th goes by. Paul Tracy is 5th. Greg Moore is 14th and 2 laps down.
Well, that just goes to show how competitive this is. That's put he's out of the race for all intents and purposes. You know, it just takes something like that, a little tire puncture, and he had such a great day going.
Look at how the battle for 4th has developed over the last 3 laps, down to 0.3 of a second. And closing all the time. Paul Tracy is flying. Jan Bikus has more on him.
Yes, when we saw him going that fast, Bob, we thought possibly they had put the soft Goodyear tires on. But checking with Team Penske, they say they have stayed with the harder Goodyear tire because they feel it's better over the long runs. Paul Tracy said on the last set of tires, the car was a little bit loose. So they changed, I believe, the tire pressure slightly. Obviously, Paul Tracy very happy right now.
Gilles de Ferran able to hold the gap just a bit now on Tracy. And the leader is slowing. Dario Franchitti.
That can't be fuel because they wouldn't have taken a gamble. That's way too short. Something's gone wrong there.
With 26 laps to go, what a disappointment for the home team from Hogan Racing.
Everybody looking as he goes by to make sure there's no liquids dropping out of that car. He'll probably go to the end of the pits and take a left turn right on your screen.
Marty Reed, what can you add?
The word we're hearing on the radio is it's a probable gearbox problem. So there goes our Rio finish, guys.
Well, now surging to the front. The guy Franchitti is battling for the rookie championship. Patrick Carpentier driving for Tony Bettenhausen.
And what's interesting is we've seen some gearbox problems here. Of course, they shift here, which they normally don't do on most ovals. So maybe that's a problem that's going to plague a few more before the day's out.
There's DeFerrin with Tracy just behind him. They are now battling over third place. Saw statistics on the pit stops for the leading cars. Patrick Carpentier, our 8th leader of the day, and like Franchitti before him, his first time ever in the lead in a PPG Kart World Series race. Running further back in the pack, Andre Ribeiro runs in the 10th spot. And we have telemetry on board his car to give us a bit more accurate feel of what the driver is going through on his laps. Ribeiro in the Lola with Honda Power on Firestone tires. Honda telemetry, lateral cheese. Watch as he goes into 3 and 4. Right up against the 4 mark. Speed on the right of your screen, briefly touching 200 miles an hour.
212, look at those dashes in there. That is pretty incredible to show what they're doing this late in the race.
Keep in mind, they've been doing this for about 2 hours.
Right, those yellows have helped them tremendously because it gives them time to rest in the car. But late in the race, when they're laying on 4 Gs or plus that, he's not one of the fastest cars on the track, but he's certainly up there. That's pretty hard, particularly on your neck muscles and the upper body.
Watch how those Gs are sustained through the entire corner. Jan Bikas.
Talking about G-forces, Bob, and we've also seen some gearbox failures. Remember that the gearbox is a stressed member of these cars. It is true that they do some shifting, so it may be possible, it's just speculation on my part, that when they're pulling almost 5 Gs in the corners, that might be putting the extra stress on the actual drivetrain.
G-force is a unit of measurement, measuring a multiple of the force of gravity. Ribeiro in 10th. Richie Hearn just ahead of him in 9th. 20 laps to go. There is the race leader, Patrick Carpentier. What a day for him.
What do you think that Tony Bettenhausen's heart's like right at this stage?
Oh, reveille.
19 laps to go. His guy's out front and running very, very strong.
Marty Reed.
You were mentioning Tony Bettenhausen. He doesn't even want to talk to me. He looks over, and all he does is he puts his fingers so close together. That's how close they're going to be on fuel. These guys are doing the calculations. We do have another version of Rio. This is going to go down to the wire with this team. They think they may have enough.
I didn't like the way that guy's head was moving. It was moving no. He was going side to side. He wasn't going. But Patrick's doing a great job getting through traffic there, and he's got that little cushion behind him, that bright yellow and orange car of Raul. The pole sitter is, of course, 5 laps down. Zanardi's back there, and Raul is a tough guy to pass.
What about the draft? Could Carpentier find somebody to draft with and help himself? We saw in Rio, Paul Tracy told me afterward that he was happy to run behind Bobby Rahal, both of them marginal on fuel.
The problem is he'd need a car running at the same pace as he's running to really help him. And right now he's going through traffic, so he's using all that he can. And he's the one that's cutting the lead, so to speak.
You ride with second place, Alex Zanardi. We've got a dramatic finish coming. We'll take a break and return. Stand by for more of the Motorola 300. We're back live at Gateway. Don't forget, coming up next, our coverage begins at the JCPenney LPGA Skins game. All for the year, Laura Davies, Dottie Pepper, Anika Sorenstam, Carrie Webb. They'll tee it up next on ABC Sports. Here at Gateway, we've got a great finish coming up. Patrick Carpentier leads that man. Alex Zanardi with Paul Tracy right there on Zanardi's tail. 10 laps to go.
Let me tell you, this is great. And Paul Tracy put a move on Gilles DeFerrin, and Gilles DeFerrin came right back, nearly stopped my heart.
Now, is Patrick Carpentier okay on fuel? Marty Reed.
They're out here pleading for him to run in 6th gear. He's been shifting and going into 1, down to 5th. They need him to stay in 6th gear. They keep the recalculations going time and time again. You can see them. They're not quite sure yet if they're going to make this. The guy who might be sitting in the catbird seat, just like he might have been also had Paul Tracy run into trouble back at Rio, is Alex Zanardi. Maybe Team Ganassi may be the ones to benefit if these guys fall a little bit short.
And also one thing helping Patrick Carpentier right now is Paul Tracy being all over Alex Zanardi, because he can't focus except on the back of his car because he's got Paul Tracy breathing down him, and that's going to give Patrick Carpentier a little breathing space, and he may be able to run in that 6th gear.
You saw the numbers on the battle for second between Zanardi and Tracy. Jan Beekes.
Well, we have 2 Reynards leading a Penske, and the Reynard cars of Alex Zanardi do not have as much fuel. So they may have to not be able to use as much fuel as the Penske chassis for Paul Tracy. Let's get up to you guys, because I guess we have a battle on the racetrack.
Oh, do we ever, as Paul Tracy stuck it underneath Alex Zanardi. Now let's take you back to the streets of Surfers Paradise, Australia, when those 2 guys went wheel to wheel, and it hurt both of them. Tracy tangled, knocked out of the race. Zanardi tangled, managed to get going again, charged to 4th. But what a disappointment for both of them. Now here they are, nose to tail at 190 miles an hour at Gateway.
And believe me, Penske knows that Patrick Carpentier may not go the distance. He's got to get his driver up there in front. And Paul Tracy knows that as well. So we've got, and Clive Howell's telling him to, you know, think points and stay sharp.
At the beginning of our program, our theme was the traditions of Memorial Day. And what could be a more important tradition than oval racing with a name like Bettenhausen? It's been a long haul for Tony Bettenhausen and his team. They have come upon a diamond in the rough in driver Patrick Carpentier. If he can hold on for 5 laps of this 1¼ mile racetrack to bring Tony to victory lane.
And here comes Paul Tracy. He took a run through 3 and 4. He's got him.
Tracy
got him
into 2nd place, but does Tracy have enough time to close on Carpentier? You ride with Alex Zanardi, 4 to go. Marty Reed.
The key right now, they're telling him he's got to run. Patrick Carpentier, 26-second laps, and he's running like 25.9, 25.8. That's how close it is, guys. He has to go 26 seconds. Jan.
Just to finish that story, we were talking about the fuel. Of course, all these cars are limited to 35 gallons. The Penske chassis has 35, but the Reynard, the fuel cell, is just a little bit too small. They're going to make new fuel cells that will be available at the end of June, so that may play in the outcome. Here comes Tracy.
Paul Tracy closes up on Patrick Carpentier.
And he's got traffic right in front of Patrick. Look at this, right there. Paul's going to have a run on him. He doesn't have a fuel problem.
234 laps in the book, 2 laps to go, and Tracy goes into the lead.
Patrick did not want to give that up.
Now Tracy has the lead, and Carpentier is going to have to watch out for Zanardi rushing up from behind, but Paul Tracy makes his bid for his 3rd consecutive victory, and he pulls away from Patrick Carpentier with the white flag in the hands of Jim Swintel. It waves. Carpentier is stuck, Zanardi stuck behind slower traffic. Last lap for Paul Tracy. And there is Patrick Carpentier.
Can he make it? He's still got that fuel situation. He's definitely conserving it now because Zanardi has dropped back. What a finish.
Off of turn 4 at Gateway, Paul Tracy comes to the line for his 13th career win, 3rd in a row. He goes into the record books as winner of the inaugural Motorola 300. Al Unser Jr. on the left, Roger Penske on the right. What a day. And kudos also to Patrick Carpentier in 2nd. We'll be back in a moment. Back at Gateway International Raceway, the fans who have turned out have had an amazing show to inaugurate their new racetrack. Unofficial results: Paul Tracy, his 3rd consecutive victory. Patrick Carpentier, the rookie star, held on as long as he could. Gilles de Ferran finishes 3rd as Alex Zanardi fades to 4th. There you see the rest of the top finishers. An amazing day, questions right down to the very end. Nobody left, the crowd on its feet cheering for Paul Tracy. Back in 1994, Tracy's teammate Al Unser Jr. won 3 races in a row. Now he has done the same. Let's get down to victory lane. There is Paul Tracy.
Paul Tracy, that was an awesome race for you. Tell me, in the middle of the race, did you still think you had a shot to win this one?
Well, when we stayed out on that first stop and it put us a lap down, I thought it was going to be a long day, and the car was handling good. We were a little loose at the beginning, but the Marlboro car, we made some adjustments on this first stop, and the thing came to, and we worked our way back to the front. And I don't know what was going on with the timing and scoring, but I got put back a bunch of positions, and I thought it was going to end. I thought we were going to get stuck in 8th place with the rain, and hey, the car was great. The guys did great on the pit stops, and Mercedes, we got the fuel mileage we needed so we could run full rich at the end, and we just chased them down.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Congratulations, 3 in a row. Let's go to Marty Reed.
Well, from the best of 9th place Miami, 2nd place, congratulations. You almost pulled it off.
We really did. We had a strategy there right before the end of the race. We wanted to pit and top it off with fuel before all the cars in front of us did. And as it turned out, we needed about 2 more gallons of fuel. We had to back him down at the end. Not making an excuse. Paul Tracy drove a hell of a race, but, you know, we could have sure used a couple more gallons.
Hey, 2nd place. They're still happy, guys.
A good job for Tony Bettenhausen and his team. The 1/3 mark of the 1997 PPG Kart World Series. The leader is Paul Tracy, who has widened his margin over Alex Zanardi, followed by Scott Pruitt, Michael Andretti, Greg Moore, and Jimmy Vasser. Be sure to be with us next week for the next round of the series, the Miller 200, Sunday, June 1st, 2 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPN. It's been a great day here at Gateway. Congratulations to Paul Tracy and Team Penske, 3 in a row. I'm Bob Varsha for Danny Sullivan, Jan Beekes, and Marty Reed. Thanks for being with us. So long from the new Gateway International Raceway in Madison, Illinois.